As soon as my mom hit menopause, she started clamoring to get the longevity shot. The longevity shot costs 300,000 yuan per injection, and they say you look 20 years younger right after. I still haven't given the Wang family a son. Once I get the shot, I'm sure I'll be able to have one. I was worried about potential side effects from the longevity shot, so I didn't let her go. She teamed up with my father, knocked me out, locked me in the house, and used the savings I had worked for years to accumulate to get the longevity injection. Later, she suffered from continuous bleeding in her lower body, which completely wrecked her health, leaving her bedridden for the rest of her life. Yet, she blamed everything on me, calling me a jinx who cursed her, and even put pesticide in my water glass. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my mother went to get the longevity injection. I did something out of character. One shot isn't enough. Mom, get two. You'll be 18 again in no time, ready for a May-December romance with Dad. 1. If it weren't for having you, I wouldn't have ruined my health. I haven't been able to get pregnant all these years. The experts say that after getting the longevity shot, you'll instantly look 20 years younger. Then I'm sure I'll be able to have a healthy baby boy. The moment I opened my eyes, my mom shoved me aside. She rummaged through my handbag, trying to find my bank card. Seeing me still standing there in a daze, she immediately grew impatient. What? You're already complaining about spending a few bucks on me. Don't forget how many years I raised you. Even if it's 10,000 a year, you still owe me 300,000. Seeing this, my dad chimed in with a sneer. I told you she was an ungrateful wretch. You still think she'll give you money? Dream on, honestly. The best thing would be to marry her off and get her out of our sight. Seeing my mom was about to nod in agreement, I immediately pointed to my handbag. You're my parents. If I have money, of course I'd spend it on you. The bank card is in the inner pocket of the bag. Then, smiling, I stepped forward and linked arms with my mom. Besides, one shot isn't enough. Mom, get two. You'll turn 18 again and have a May-December romance with Dad. Only after I finished teasing her did a smile finally appear on her face. She said, a daughter really is her parents' little comforter. We didn't raise her for nothing. I watched as she slipped the bank card into her pocket and bustled out the door with my dad. My mom is in her 50s and has just gone through menopause. She saw some longevity shots somewhere and absolutely insisted on getting it. She claims her health was ruined giving birth to me, otherwise she'd have gotten pregnant and had a son long ago. But the truth is, she had 2 abortions before I was even born. They were both girls, and she didn't want them. Her body, having undergone 2 abortions, was decaying from the very core. When she was pregnant with me, the doctor misdiagnosed me as a boy. That's why she risked her health to give birth to me. In her previous life, for decades after having me, she drank countless folk remedies but still never conceived again. It wasn't until she reached menopause, with all hope of bearing a son gone, that she began to put her faith in longevity injections. I was worried the longevity treatment would harm her health, fearing it could lead to complications in her old age, so I tried my hardest to stop her, but I never imagined she would team up with my father, knock me out, and lock me in the house. They used my hard-earned savings to pay for the longevity injection. Later, my mother experienced a rejuvenation, but suffered from continuous bleeding. She stubbornly refused to go to the hospital, letting her health deteriorate until her body gave out. This resulted in paralysis from the waist down, condemning her to spend the rest of her life bedridden. She didn't blame the faulty longevity injection, but pinned it all on me. She called me a jinx, saying I was the one who cursed her, and now, watching my parents' receding figures, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. If you want a son, then have one. Don't come crying to me if you end up bedridden later. 2. That very afternoon, the 2 of them came back arm in arm. My mother was beaming, her usual domineering air completely gone. He walked over and handed me the bank card. That beauty salon is really legit. They've got a whole row of certificates and licenses on display. Even the doctor giving me the shot said I'm in great health. He said after this longevity treatment, I'm sure to have a son. When a professional says something like that, who are we to doubt it? She let out a little giggle and poked my dad, who was standing off to the side. What did I tell you? I knew I'd give the Wang family a son. I nodded in agreement with a smile. I pushed the bank card back into my mother's hand. Mom, you keep this money. Don't be polite with me. The whole reason I earn money is for you and Dad to spend. Besides, you'll have plenty of expenses in the future. It's always good to have some savings to fall back on. In my past life, after my mother received the longevity treatment, she kept pestering me for money to buy supplements. After she spent all my savings, she turned around and berated me for being useless. If I had given birth to a son, he'd be earning millions a year by now. Not like you, working for years and only making this pittance. My father nodded in agreement. How can a daughter compare to a son? A son can support us in our old age. Can a daughter do that? In the end, I lost all my money and was even killed, since they think a daughter can't provide for them in old age. Then I won't bother. I coaxed my mother into a better mood with a few sweet words. When my mom heard what I said, her face lit up with a huge, beaming smile, and she kept saying how thoughtful I was. Then, humming a tune, she walked into the kitchen. For dinner, my mom made several dishes and kept piling my bowl with shrimp and beef, things she normally wouldn't let me have. She sat across from me with a mysterious look on her face. Happily, she said, "I've got some good news. Guess what it is?" I put down my bowl and looked at my mother. Her face was a little pale, though it wasn't very noticeable under the warm yellow light of the living room. I knew then that her long-awaited period had finally arrived. Little did she know, this was a downpour of blood that would never cease. I picked up my bowl and continued eating without a word. She cleared her throat softly before speaking. "I've got my period." The doctor was spot on. That 300,000 yuan was money well spent, holding her stomach. She added, "It's just a bit of a stomachache. My dad said if the pain gets really bad, I should go to the hospital and not let it wear my body down. What do you, a man, know about it? It says online that period cramps are just normal uterine contractions. Going to the hospital is a complete waste of money." My mom scolded loudly, seeing the cold sweat beading on her forehead. I thoughtfully cleared the dishes. I told her to rest well, hoping she'd soon give birth to a baby brother. She offered a strained smile and lay motionless in bed. Late at night, there was a knock on my door. My father stood at my door in his pajamas, with patches of blood staining his trousers. "Nini, come quick and check on your mother. She's lost a lot of blood." I walked into their room and saw my mother lying in bed, bundled up tightly with only her dark, glistening eyes visible. She looked at my father and said with exasperation, "It's just a little blood, isn't it? What woman hasn't been through this? Is there really any need for all this fuss? Who knows my own body better than me? The doctor said it's normal, so who are you to argue with a professional?" Then, looking at me, she said, "I'm fine. Don't listen to your father's nonsense. Go back to bed." Without a moment's hesitation, I turned and walked away. If she's determined to dig her own grave, then no one can save her. 3. The next morning, right after I got up, I saw my mom sitting in the living room, opening a package. Her complexion was even paler than the day before, practically devoid of any color. Seeing I was awake, she motioned for me to come over. "These are the supplements I bought from the doctor's office. I haven't paid for them yet, so you can settle the bill." I immediately picked up my mom's phone, but her startled cry cut me off. "What are you doing? I told you to pay for it." "Not with my phone." I shrugged. "I gave all my money to you. I'm broke." She paused, muttered something under her breath, then turned and paid for it herself. "I heard it clearly," she said. "A daughter is just useless." Just then, my dad came back from his morning exercise, pointed at my mom's face, and said, "You look absolutely awful. Maybe you should go to the hospital and get checked out." My mother touched her face and snapped back, "What do you know? This is the longevity shot taking effect. Can't you see I've gotten fairer and look younger?" My father's well-intentioned advice was met with a cold rebuff, so he went off in a huff to play with the birds. I had just finished breakfast and was about to head out to work when my mother called me back. She looked embarrassed. "Could you pick up 10 packs of sanitary pads on your way home from work? My flow has been really heavy these last couple of days." I nodded and left the house. As soon as I got to the office, I went straight into my boss's office and handed in my resignation, because after giving birth to me, my mother's health was permanently affected. I'm their only daughter, so they've kept me on a short leash. I could have gotten into a top-tier university in another province, but they went behind my back and changed my application. They kept me in our home province, where I ended up at a mediocre university. They even meddled in my career, making me give up on my dreams and just find some random job near home. They're terrified I'll fly the coop and won't be around to support them in their old age. It's utterly laughable to think that in my last moments, I was still worried about what would happen to my parents if I died. The family I had always treated with genuine sincerity never actually wanted me here in the first place. Then I might as well quit this job. I'm just going to hand over all my money for them to squander sooner or later anyway. I had just left the office when I got a call from my dad saying my mom had fainted. She was perfectly fine one moment, then she just collapsed. We couldn't wake her up, no matter how hard we tried. "You need to come home right now and take your mother to the hospital." After hanging up the phone, I made my way home without any particular hurry. On the way, I even stopped at the supermarket to buy my mom 10 packs of sanitary pads. By the time I got home, my mom had already woken up. She was sitting on the sofa, leisurely peeling and eating an orange. Seeing me return, she shot my dad a sharp glare. "It's all your dad making a fuss. I just fainted for a bit because I was a little anemic. And he got so worked up over nothing, even making you come all the way back. The doctor who gave me the shot said I'm perfectly healthy. Why won't you believe me? Do you need to hear it from her directly? Fine, I'm going for a follow-up appointment tomorrow anyway. You two can come with me." My father pursed his lips to the side and said nothing. Then, my mother's expression suddenly changed. She immediately stood up and stumbled her way into the bathroom. I saw that a patch of blood had already soaked through the spot where she had just been sitting. Against the beige sofa, it was especially conspicuous. My dad was also stunned. He turned his head, cleared his throat softly, and pretended not to have seen it. I have to hand it to my mom. She was hemorrhaging badly, yet she stubbornly refused to go to the hospital. In just 3 days, my mom lost over 20 pounds, but she didn't find it strange at all, insisting it was all thanks to the longevity shot. The first step to looking young is to lose weight. Once you're slim, your skin tightens up, and that's what makes you look youthful. Her lips were deathly pale, her face sallow. She said, "It's because I'm anemic from my period. Just wait until it's over. You'll see me glowing with health." Whether she'd be glowing or not, I couldn't say. All I knew was if she didn't get to a hospital soon, paralysis from the waist down would be the least of her problems. In my previous life, the first time my mother fainted, I took her straight to the hospital for a checkup. That's what kept me from being paralyzed from the neck down. The doctor said if I'd arrived 2 days later, it could have been fatal. But now, watching my mom constantly run to the bathroom, all I tell her is to drink more hot water and get some rest. I'm done being a pushover, and I have no intention of tasting pesticide again. I was watching TV in the living room. My mom had been in the bathroom for over half an hour with no sign of coming out. I turned to my dad and asked, "Mom's been in there forever. You don't think anything's wrong, do you?" He scoffed. "What could possibly be wrong? If you go bother her now, she'll bite your head off for sure." I turned my attention back to the TV and didn't press the matter, but over an hour later, my mom was still in the bathroom. That's when my dad realized something was wrong. He hurried over and opened the bathroom door. Only then did he discover that my mom had already collapsed on the floor, and beneath her, a large pool of blood was flowing towards the drain. "Call 911 now," my dad yelled, helping my mom sit up. By the time we got to the hospital, my mom was groggily coming to. My dad, looking shaken, tightly held her hand. "You scared me to death. I thought you weren't going to wake up." A faint smile flickered at the corner of my mother's mouth. But just as she was about to speak, she suddenly broke down in tears. She cried out loudly, "Why can't I feel my hands and my legs? I can't move them at all." Amidst her cries and sobs, my mother was wheeled into the operating room. The operating room lights came on, and my father was crouched against the wall. He said, "It's over. The one family line ends with me. She can't bear a son. I've failed our ancestors. I couldn't carry on the one family line." My father's quiet sobs slowly swelled into uncontrollable weeping. He only stopped when my mother was wheeled out of the operating room. He walked up to the doctor, his face full of desperate hope. The doctor shook his head. "The patient has lost too much blood, causing irreversible damage to her body. If she had arrived any later, the consequences would have been far more severe than just total paralysis." Upon hearing the doctor's words, my father cried out in shock. Total paralysis? Could the diagnosis be wrong? Isn't this just her period? How could it lead to paralysis? He grabbed the doctor's arm tightly, asking in disbelief. After hearing the doctor's reply, his eyes reddened with fury. He said he was going to confront that beauty salon and demand compensation. But by the time my father rushed over, the place was already deserted. The day after my mom got that longevity shot, I reported the beauty salon. They're already locked up, so how are they supposed to pay up? My dad was fuming with nowhere to vent. Seeing my mom lying in the hospital bed, constantly asking for water or food, just made his blood boil. He snatched the rice bowl right out of my hands and smashed it on the floor. Only after it had shattered to pieces did he step forward and grab my mother by the hair. "Didn't you tell me that after getting that longevity shot I'd get pregnant and have a son? So where's my son? Do you have any idea that because of you, the one family line has come to an end? Divorce? I want a divorce. If you can't give me a child, there are plenty of women who can." My mother smiled, but it was a particularly vicious smile. "No way. You want a divorce? Over my dead body?" 5. My mom said there's still 100,000 yuan in the bank card I gave her, and she wants me to use it to pay the hospital bill. Find me a decent nursing home. Money's not an issue. Just transfer me 5,000 a month. Don't worry about your father anymore. Let him do whatever he wants. I told her that Dad had already taken the bank card a long time ago, and she nearly sat straight up in anger. She let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Your father was never meant to have a son. What? Does he think he can just find someone else if he divorces me? He should take a look in the mirror. He's not getting any younger." I stared silently at the notification on my phone showing a 100,000 yuan withdrawal from my bank card. A foul stench hit me. I realized my mother had soiled the bed, yet she showed no sign of embarrassment and continued to order me around. "Can't you smell that? Clean it up. No, I raised you all these years, and now it's time for you to pay me back. Can't you even get the simple thing right?" Even now, she was still clinging to her dream of having a son. Daughters are so high maintenance. If I had a son, he'd have put me in a top-tier care home ages ago, with a whole team of nurses looking after me. "What are you standing there for? Can't you see I've soiled the bed?" Upon hearing her words, I immediately flung the rag in my hand right into her face. With a cold expression, I said, "Then let your son take care of you." I'm done. She shook her head frantically until the rag finally fell from her face. Then, they launched into a furious tirade at me. After all I've done for you. You have the nerve to get an attitude when I criticize you. You've gotten too big for your boots, haven't you? Even I can't control you anymore. If I'd known you'd turn out like this, I should have gotten rid of you when I was pregnant. I ignored her and walked away. If you walk out that door, don't you ever call me mom again. Without hesitation, I walked straight out of the room, thoughtfully closing the door behind me. I found my dream job online, in the neighboring province, and I can start the onboarding process next week. I was back home packing my bags when, halfway through, I saw my dad walk in with a well-kept, middle-aged woman. Seeing me, my dad looked extremely awkward. Stiffly, he gestured to the woman beside him and said, "This is Auntie Liang. She lives in the building next to ours." I gave a nod of acknowledgement. I can't believe it. My mom had only been paralyzed for 2 days, and my dad already had someone else lined up. No wonder he was trying to divorce my mom from my room. I could occasionally hear the two of them talking in the living room. "I'm willing to go through with the IVF procedure, but this house of yours needs to be transferred into my name. After all, I'm over 40. Getting pregnant at this age comes with significant risks." After a long silence, my father finally spoke in a low voice. "Can you guarantee it will be a son, Auntie Liang? With IVF these days, you can even choose the gender. Just relax and stop worrying. I'll definitely give you a healthy, bouncing baby boy," my dad said. "I'll transfer you 100,000 first, for the IVF treatment." Eavesdropping from the side, my jaw dropped in shock. I must have died too young in my past life to have missed out on all this drama. 6. The hospital was urging me to go and get my mom discharged. I had just pushed the door open when I saw my dad standing by her hospital bed. He was looking down at her from above. All the usual warmth between them was gone. They were both going for the jugular. My mom lay in the bed, trembling with rage. She said, "If it weren't for trying to give your father a son, would I be lying here paralyzed in this bed? I'll never divorce you. I'm going to make you wait on me hand and foot for the rest of your life." Cleaning up my mess, my father was so enraged that he stepped forward and slapped her twice. Under my mother's disbelieving gaze, he said coldly, "What's the use of a wife who can't bear a son? The way you are now, you'd be better off dead." I stepped forward at just the right moment, casting a casual glance toward my father. I just ran into Aunt Liang at the obstetrics and gynecology department. She was in line for IVF. I then turned back and gently tapped the blanket around my mother. I said in a measured tone, "Mom, you probably don't know this yet, but Dad has asked Aunt Liang to be the surrogate for IVF. It's guaranteed to be a boy. If only you hadn't taken that longevity treatment back then, going straight for IVF would have been so much better. You could have saved a fortune, and you wouldn't have ended up paralyzed." I heard from Dad that if Aunt Liang gets pregnant, they're planning to transfer the deed of our house to her. My words hit like a thunderbolt out of a clear sky. My mother's initial disbelief quickly twisted into bitter resentment. Her eyes were bloodshot, tears tracing paths down the corners of her eyes. He looked utterly pitiful. "How dare you, Gary? Are you that desperate for a son? I own half of that house. Just you try and transfer the title to her. Over my dead body will she ever get that house?" My father stared straight at me. Then, as if struck by a sudden thought, his demeanor softened. He stepped forward, offering my mother water and peeling fruit for her. He was excessively attentive. I watched his busy figure, a chill running down my spine. My mother, however, seemed oblivious, lying in bed and basking in my father's meticulous care. I was just going to find any old nursing home for my mom, but my dad beat me to it. How could a nursing home ever be as comfortable as your own home? The orderlies there just go through the motions. And sometimes they'll see you bedridden and take advantage. It's plain as day. If you ask me, it's better to care for her at home. It's just more convenient when family looks after their own." My mom nodded thoughtfully and agreed. After being treated like a servant by my mom for 2 days, my dad finally reached his breaking point. It was raining outside, yet I saw my mom sitting in her wheelchair, getting soaked in the middle of the square. She was screaming and cursing. But my dad just watched coldly from a distance, with no intention of going down to help. After that, she learned her lesson. He's not so difficult to deal with anymore. Just when I thought I could take a job out of province, my mother burst into my room in a panic. She said my father was going to kill her. She begged me to take her away. I tilted my head and looked past her, catching sight of my father standing behind her. His face cold and grim. I let out a laugh. "Mom, what are you talking about? There's no way Dad would ever hurt you. He takes such good care of you. It's a lie, all of it. He wants me dead," she screamed, oblivious to the figure drawing closer behind her. My gaze shifted over my mother's slender shoulder, looking to what lay behind her. "Dad, Mom said you're going to kill her. Is that true?" In that instant, the color drained from my mother's face, her body went rigid, and she didn't dare turn around. My father walked over and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. He said with a smile. Your mother's talking nonsense. The sun's out. I need to take her out to get some sun. I looked out at the pitch black night and pulled my coat tighter around me. 7. My mother is dead. She was killed by a car, the wheelchair, and the person were smashed to pieces in the dark of night. When my father and I went to claim the body, he knelt on the ground, weeping as if his heart would break. As if he hadn't been the one to cause it, I rubbed my phone, desperately wanting to present the evidence right then and there, to tear off my father's mask of hypocrisy. What a shame, but it's not the right time yet. The person at fault paid $300,000 in compensation, and every penny went straight into my father's pocket. After my mother died, only my father's name remained on the property deed. Now, he can transfer the house to Aunt Liang with the greatest of ease. The day I walked out the door with my luggage, Auntie Liang moved in. She was impeccably made up, finding fault with every corner of the house. My father trailed behind her like a loyal dog, nodding in agreement at everything. She said, a grown daughter is like water spilled on the ground. She no longer belongs to this home. The subtext was clear. I wasn't welcome back. They then turned my room into a storage space. Even the flowers my mother had tenderly cared for were all thrown out, dismissed by her as gaudy, in the very first month of my new job. My father was right on time with a WeChat message asking me for money. A daughter's earnings should be used to honor her parents. I'm not asking for much. Just start with $3,000 a month. I could tell at a glance it was from Aunt Liang, so I didn't pay it much mind. But who would have thought that my silence would end up being posted online by her? She accused me of failing to support my parents and being ungrateful. They even posted my photo online, sparking public outrage, on my way to work. An older woman recognized me and spat at me. She was absolutely furious, as if I owed her a fortune. You look so proper and decent, but you're so heartless. You run off to the big city to live the high life, leaving your parents to struggle back home, and you don't even send them money. I wiped the spit off my clothes and spat back at her several times. I didn't stop until she started shrieking and howling. Don't believe everything you read online. Do you even know who she is, or who I am? She's not even my stepmother. Why on earth should I give her any money? My dad got to keep my mom's compensation money in the house, and he didn't give me a single thing. How come you're not talking about that? I left her speechless, as more and more people gathered to watch. She quickly covered her face and ran off. The whole thing didn't cause much of a stir. In the end, my dad stepped in to mediate, and it just fizzled out. The next time I heard anything about her was from my dad's social media feed. After all these years, he finally posted an update on his social media feed. Better late than never, my son. The post was accompanied by a photo of a baby. The comments were flooded with congratulations from every aunt and distant relative, celebrating my father becoming a dad again after 50. I dug out a video from my private album. After watching it over and over, I asked my company for 2 days off. It was time to go back. When I returned, I went straight to the hospital. A year had passed, and my father had aged considerably. His once straight back was now hunched, yet Aunt Liang was positively glowing, her whole demeanor radiating gentleness. The moment she saw me, her face was a picture of pure displeasure. What? You came empty-handed? Aren't you going to give your little brother a nice red envelope? Honestly, you have no emotional intelligence. How can you not understand such a simple thing? My dad tried to speak up for me, but a single glare from her shut him right up. Seeing her like that, I couldn't help but let out a cold, mocking laugh. I turned to my dad, who was hanging his head, and said, maybe you should get a paternity test sometime. Not just anyone can be my brother. The one family bloodline is all that matters, isn't it? After hearing what I said, a flicker of guilt flashed in Aunt Liang's eyes. She stammered, unable to utter a word in her own defense. 2 days later, Aunt Liang was discharged from the hospital, staying at a postpartum care center that costs $50,000 a month. She said, when you get older, you have to take good care of yourself, so you don't end up with complications in your old age. I sneered from the side. Yeah, you could practically be your kid's grandmother. By the time he grows up, you'll be long gone. She said I was being too harsh and wanted to kick me out. I pulled a lab report from my pocket and read the words on it, one by one. The moment she heard DNA test results, she panicked. Ignoring the pain from the wound on her abdomen, she got out of bed to snatch it, but I was quicker, tucking it safely into my jacket. Aunt Liang stood barefoot on the floor, her eyes bloodshot. What do you want, money or the house? I can give you one of them. It's no wonder she was so frantic. She knew perfectly well that the child she gave birth to wasn't my father's. I had seen my father's medical report before. He was already in his 50s, and his sperm motility was extremely low, the kind that makes conception very difficult. In order to get her hands on my dad's 3-bedroom apartment and his savings, Aunt Liang simply picked a donor from a sperm bank to get pregnant. She thought she could pull the wool over everyone's eyes. But little did she know, I overheard the whole thing. I was just about to speak up when my dad opened the door and walked in. What were you all just talking about? Why is everyone standing up? I ignored Aunt Liang's pleading gaze and handed the test results I was holding to my father, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. He stared at it for a full 3 minutes. Then, he crumpled it into a ball and hurled it squarely at Aunt Liang's head. Why did you lie to me? What haven't I done for you? For you, he had even killed someone, he just didn't say it out loud. Do you have any idea how much I wanted a son? The one family line depended on you, and in the end, you lied to me. My father, as if possessed, kicked over the nearby stroller. The child inside was wailing in terror, yet no one dared to step forward and help him up. My father lost his mind. He grabbed the fruit knife from the table and plunged it into Aunt Liang's abdomen. Grinning widely, he said, "If you can't bear a child, then you might as well die. You die too. The one family line ends here. Haha." He burst into a fit of maniacal laughter. He was subdued by the police who arrived on the scene. I hid in the back, breaking out in a cold sweat from fright. I don't dare think about what would have happened if the police had arrived a moment later, whether I would have ended up like Aunt Liang, collapsing on the ground, with the video I provided as evidence. My father was convicted of murder. When I went to see my father for the last time in prison, he had regained a measure of composure. He asked me when I recorded the video, "I was following you the whole time that night when you were pushing my mom out." Then he asked why I hadn't come forward sooner, why I had to wait until now. I thought about it, but there was no specific reason. It was just a way of letting him have a son. However, briefly, even as the conversation ended, he kept muttering, "How will I face our ancestors when I die? I should never have married your mother. A woman who can't bear a son is useless." Stepping out of the gloomy prison and into the sunlight, I finally began to feel warmth returning to my body. After Aunt Liang passed away, with no one to care for her son, he was sent to an orphanage. The house and what little savings remained were transferred into my name. After selling the house, I bought a small apartment near my workplace. I left that painful place behind for good. In this new life, I broke free from the shackles of my family of origin and built a better life for myself. And, story 2, I had plans to meet my boyfriend on National Day, but when the day came, I found out my train ticket had been refunded by someone. I didn't realize what happened until I got back to my dorm. My roommate had used my phone to get a refund so that another student couldn't snag the ticket to go home. I confronted her about it. My roommate said with unshakable conviction, "Their family member is sick and needs care. It's not like your boyfriend is dying. You can just visit him another time." Little did I know her words would turn out to be a grim prophecy. Because I didn't go see him, my boyfriend ended up going back to work overtime. A fire broke out in the building, and he was tragically killed at his desk. I was utterly heartbroken. Just when I was starting to move on, my roommate said they'd take me out to unwind, but brought me to the countryside for a blind date. Turns out some local troublemaker was looking for a partner online, and my roommate thought I'd be a good match for him. I thought it was absurd and tried to leave, but the guy locked me in the basement. I was eventually rescued, but it left an indelible psychological scar. I died of depression. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my roommate used my phone to cancel the ticket. I found myself reborn in the water room. Asked someone nearby for the date and time, then rushed back to the dormitory. Just as expected, Bianca was using my phone to process a ticket refund, while Serum stood nearby with her phone ready to snatch up the ticket. "Bianca," I shouted loudly, startling Bianca and making her whole body jolt. Before she could react, I rushed over and snatched the phone from her. The screen was still on the order page. I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw the ticket hadn't been refunded yet. "Violet, you scared us to death," Bianca said, patting her chest and looking at me with a face full of resentment. I could see she was furious. "What are you doing with my phone?" Upon hearing this, Bianca chuckled and said, "Seren's hometown is City A, but she couldn't snag a train ticket home for the National Day holiday. Weren't you planning to visit your boyfriend in City A during the break? If you cancel your ticket, Seren can quickly grab it. She's got fast fingers." Her sheer audacity only made me angrier. "I went through so much trouble to get this ticket. What gives you the right to tell me to cancel it?" Bianca replied, "Violet, can you please show a little compassion? Seren's family member just had surgery, and she needs to go back to take care of them. You're just going to see your boyfriend. It's not like he's on his deathbed. You can always visit him another time. In my past life, Bianca guilt-tripped me exactly like this. But I only realized she'd refunded my ticket on National Day itself. Back then, though her words angered me, I still felt Seren's matter was more pressing. Little did I know, Bianca's words would prove prophetic. Since I didn't go to see my boyfriend, he ended up going back to the office to work overtime. That same day, their building caught fire, and tragically, my boyfriend was burned alive at his desk. I later found out that he had a minor heart condition. He was the only one working late that day. He had a heart attack, which is why he couldn't escape. My boyfriend was my senior by 3 years, and we had a very strong relationship. After he passed away, I was utterly heartbroken and fell into depression from missing him so much. It took me a long time to finally start moving on. Bianca suggested taking me back to her rural hometown to help me relax and clear my mind. I went along with her. Turns out she didn't actually want to cheer me up. She was trying to set me up with some country bumpkin. This Kyle guy was a dropout who stood barely 4'7" and never finished junior high. He'd posted online looking for a girlfriend, specifically requesting a tall woman. Bianca thought I was a perfect fit. I thought the whole thing was absolutely ridiculous when I heard it. I couldn't help but give Bianca an earful. Bianca looked at me with an expression of someone whose kindness was completely unappreciated. "Violet, I'm only looking out for you. You've been heartbroken for so long and still can't move on. The guy I'm introducing to you looks just like your ex, and he's specifically looking for a tall girl. You're not looking down on people with disabilities, are you?" Her words really got to me. I wanted to say something more. Bianca shook off my hand from her arm and said, "Just spend some time getting to know him and you'll be fine." Then Bianca bolted out of Kyle's house in the blink of an eye. I was about to make a run for it when Kyle dragged me down to the basement. He kept me locked up in his house for 2 whole weeks. My family reported me missing to the police, and it wasn't until they questioned Bianca that she finally came clean. I had just been rescued. But the incident left me with significant psychological trauma. My depression worsened, and one morning, I jumped from the rooftop. Thinking of this, my heart aches. I shot Bianca a look and flat out refused. Bianca frowned. "Violet, we're classmates. What's the big deal about helping out?" Serum looked at me, her eyes suddenly welling up. "Violet, I'm begging you. My family really needs care. If you think it's unfair, I'll even pay extra for it." From the look of it, it seemed like her family member had some serious illness. It wasn't until my past life that I found out the truth. When Serum said her family member needed surgery and care, it was actually her father getting hemorrhoid surgery. She couldn't get a ticket but desperately wanted to go home, so she kept using that as an excuse. Under their scrutinizing gazes, I didn't back down. "My boyfriend has health issues too. I'm actually going with him to see a doctor." "Your boyfriend is so young. Even if he's sick, it can't be anything serious. It's fine to wait a while before seeing a doctor." Bianca spoke up for what's right. "You really lack empathy. If you were the one who needed help, I would definitely do everything I could to assist you." Bianca was known in class as a really good person. She liked helping the weak and rescuing stray animals. She was exceptionally generous with everyone, but she was the bigger person, and I ended up paying the price. During my freshman year, I got sick from eating duck heads at a shop near campus. When I confronted the owner, he completely ignored me. I wanted to report him to the Commerce and Industry Bureau, but Bianca stopped me, saying the duck head vendor was just running a small business and I shouldn't push the issue. Then the duck head shop owner twisted the story and posted it on the confession wall, making me the target of public criticism. After I finally managed to clear things up, the duck head shop got boycotted. But Bianca got mad at me. She called me heartless for not giving them any way out. For Mother's Day, I bought my mom a high-end skincare set. Bianca immediately passed it on to a freshman at her school. She mentioned the girl was from a remote mountain area and had never used skincare products before. Worried she might buy cheap products that could irritate her skin, Bianca gave her the good set instead. I had a heated argument with her. Bianca said impatiently, "Why are you being so nitpicky? I'll just pay you back on her behalf." Her idea of repayment was writing me an IOU. Not a single penny has been paid back to this day. "Fine, I can give my ticket to Serum." I reopened my phone and pulled up the flight booking page. "Didn't you say you'd do anything to help me if I needed it? There are still flights to City A. If you buy me a plane ticket, I'll let her have this train ticket. How about that, with National Day approaching? Even if there are available flights, the prices are ridiculously high." Bianca paled at the flight prices. "If you're so well off, why don't you just buy it yourself?" I scoffed. "Whatever money I have comes from my parents. I've already blown through my allowance this month, otherwise why would I be buying a hard seat? Weren't you the one who promised to help? Just transfer the money already." Bianca's face flushed, then paled. Finally, she snapped, "No money. I think you just don't want to give up that train ticket. Fine. If you won't, I'm sure someone else at school will." With that, Bianca grabbed Serum and stormed off. Only then did I let out a sigh of relief, sat down on the bed. A few seconds later, I jolted awake, pulled out my phone and called my boyfriend. Hearing that familiar voice again, I was absolutely thrilled. I had a long call with my boyfriend and warned him to eat properly and get enough rest. After some serious persuasion, he finally agreed to get his heart checked at the hospital tomorrow. By the time we hung up, my phone was hot enough to fry an egg. Then I noticed someone kept tagging me in the school's main group chat. "Hey everyone, sorry to bother you. I'm in urgent need of a train ticket to City A for the National Day holiday. Would really appreciate it if anyone could help me get one." After she posted this message, people quickly started asking how to transfer tickets and why she needed to buy one specifically. After Bianca explained the situation, Many classmates who were also traveling to City A for the holidays stepped up to offer help. Even while feeling overwhelmed by the kindness, Bianca still remembered to tag me in the conversation. See, there are still good people in this world. At Violet, after she posted that, naturally a lot of people wondered what I'd done, but someone in the group asked what happened. Bianca suddenly got all mysterious and wouldn't say a word no matter how people asked, just mentioned that if there's any issue, we can discuss it privately. I was on the phone with my boyfriend for an hour, and the gossipers already know the whole story. Even close friends sent me screenshots. The gist of it was Bianca calling me lovesick, saying that even though Serum begged me, I still chose to go to my boyfriend. Reading this made my blood boil instantly. I took a few deep breaths. I showed up in the group chat. Sorry, it's Serum. I had no idea your dad's hemorrhoid surgery would turn into a life-threatening situation. I guess my boyfriend's heart condition can wait. The moment these words were spoken, the group chat fell silent for a few seconds. Immediately, a self-righteous individual stepped forward. What? Hemorrhoids? Is she serious? At Serum, you're joking, right? Heart disease isn't as bad as hemorrhoids. Absolutely not. I'd like to ask at Serum how you plan to care for your father. Does he actually consent to you pulling down his pants to apply medicine? 2 messages kept flooding the group chat, but Bianca and Serum never showed up again. Some people came to apologize to me, saying they'd misunderstood the situation. After apologizing, she realized this wasn't the first time she'd said sorry. She also scolded me and apologized over that incident at the Duck Neck restaurant last time. I'm just taking in all these apologies. Bianca came storming back. She was trembling with rage, glaring at me as if she wanted to tear me apart. Violet, you've gone too far. How do you expect Serum to face anyone at school now? Everyone knows about her father's hemorrhoids because of you. I shot her a cold glare. Did you ever stop to think about how I'd cope at school when you were busy badmouthing me behind my back? That's completely different. Your family is loaded. What's the big deal if people talk about you a little? Bianca, it's not like my family's wealth came from robbing you. I snapped, pointing an accusing finger at her. You use my belongings to score points with others. If I agree, you act like you're doing me a favor. If I refuse, you call me heartless. Do you really take me for a fool? In my past life, I genuinely thought Bianca was a decent person. That's why I trusted her unconditionally. Only then did I realize Bianca was no saint. She just had a deep-seated resentment toward the wealthy. She thinks just because I'm well off, I should put up with some unfair treatment. I called her out on the truth. Bianca got defensive and said, "That's not what I meant at all." I was just about to ask what exactly she meant by that. The class monitor called me, saying the advisor wants me and Bianca to go to the office. When we arrived, we found Serum was there too. We found out that the school leadership learned about what we said in the group chat, and they thought it had a bad impact, so they asked the advisor to do some ideological work with us. When Bianca saw the advisor, she cried again like seeing a family member, saying I misunderstood her. She thought highly of her reputation at school and had a good relationship with the counselor, so she was sure the counselor would take her side. I calmly watched her put on a show from the sidelines. To her surprise, after hearing the whole story, the counselor said to her, "Well, you're in the wrong here. You're being generous with someone else's resources. If you really wanted to help, why didn't you just buy Serum a plane ticket?" Bianca was stunned. Tears were frozen on my face. The counselor made a few perfunctory remarks, telling us to bring any conflicts to her instead of airing them in the school group chat. Then she sent us on our way. I had just reached the doorway. Bianca caught up to me. "Violet, I looked down on you. I can't believe you gave gifts to the advisor." I immediately understood what Bianca was implying. She thought the advisor was siding with me instead of her, convinced there must be some under-the-table deal between us. I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. "Bianca, you can't seriously think you're in the right here," Bianca said. I meant well. How is that not justified? I realized there was no way to get through to her. I refused to continue the conversation with her. I didn't speak to Bianca again for the next few days. She started complaining to everyone again, accusing me of giving her the silent treatment. But after what happened last time, hardly anyone believes her anymore. The National Day holiday is coming up soon. In this lifetime, I finally got to fulfill my dream of riding a train. At my strong urging, my boyfriend went to the hospital for a checkup. Thanks to the timely visit, a minor heart condition was detected. Fortunately, it's nothing serious. Just some medication will take care of it. After the diagnosis, though, he was pretty shaken up and decided to quit his job and look for a new one. I fully support his decision. After spending a few wonderful days together and seeing my boyfriend completely unharmed, a huge weight was finally lifted off my chest. After returning to school, I still kept my distance from Bianca. She tried to reach out to me several times, even going so far as to apologize. I made it perfectly clear that I want nothing more to do with someone like her. I thought drawing a line would stop her from messing with me. Then came the day when the national scholarship list was announced. My name wasn't on it. I put a lot of effort into applying for the national scholarship, maintaining the top academic ranking in my grade for all 3 years of university, so when the school requested digital submissions, I immediately sent over all my materials. It wasn't until the list was published that I realized I'd submitted everything. But my academic advisor never contacted me about a defense or anything. I went to see my academic advisor. The advisor told me they hadn't received my application, as if worried I wouldn't believe it. They even opened their inbox to show me. My heart sank. I opened my own email on my phone to check. Sure enough, my email was recalled the very day I sent it. The reason I only realize this now is that my boyfriend's death in my past life hit me so hard. I completely neglected my studies, let alone bothering with scholarship matters. There's no need to investigate who did this. It's obvious. I rushed back to the dorm in a frenzy and marched up to Bianca. Without hesitation, I slapped her across the face. "Was it you?" Clutching her cheek in disbelief, Bianca cried, "How dare you hit me? What gives you the right?" After she realized what was happening, she started pulling my hair, but she was no match for me at all. I ended up pinning Bianca down, yanking her hair as I demanded, "Was it you who withdrew my national scholarship application email upon hearing about this?" Bianca was instantly filled with guilt. She whispered, "It was me." I grew even angrier. "What gives you the right to withdraw my application? I was only trying to help you," Bianca said, her eyes welling up with tears, whether from my blow or genuine hurt. I couldn't tell. "Did you know Serum also applied for this scholarship? She ranked third. With you in the running, she would have definitely lost. Her family's struggling financially. You don't need the scholarship, but she does. You have no idea how grateful she was to you after I withdrew your application, so that's how it is. I should be thanking her for being grateful to me." I was left speechless with anger. Bianca thought I had accepted the situation. She continued, "Violet, you shouldn't have competed for the scholarship in the first place. Scholarships are meant for those who truly need them. They should go to students from disadvantaged backgrounds. What you're doing is wrong. And people will talk behind your back if this gets out." I tugged her ear and yelled, "Why would anyone talk behind my back? Do you even know the difference between the National Scholarship and the National Endeavor Scholarship? The National Scholarship rewards high-achieving students like me, while the National Endeavor Scholarship is for financially struggling students like Serum." Bianca yelped in pain but remained defiant. "But there's a 3,000 yuan difference between the two scholarships. Do you have any idea how much that means? For an average family, that's 2 months' worth of living expenses. You should contribute that money to classmates who need it more." Now I finally understand what it means to cast pearls before swine. If she wants the national scholarship, she should earn it through her own efforts. Stealing mine is just pathetic. "Bianca, you're coming with me to the administration right now. I'm going to expose all your underhanded tricks, and you will return my scholarship." I pulled Bianca to her feet and dragged her toward the exit. When Bianca heard I was taking this to the administration, she actually burst into tears. Tears streamed down in big drops, as if she had suffered the gravest injustice. "Violet, you've changed. You weren't like this before," Bianca sobbed, making it seem like I was some scumbag who got a woman pregnant and abandoned her. "You used to say we were good friends. In my past life, I really did have a great relationship with Bianca, because I thought she was a decent person. Plus, I do have some money to spare, so I don't sweat the small stuff, but I never expected her to screw me over so completely." 3. I stared at her coldly. "Since when does being good friends give you the right to withdraw my scholarship application? After everything that's happened, I can't help but feel like Serum and Bianca are the ones who'd actually risk their lives for each other." Bianca said, "Of course, real friends should be of one mind. Thick as thieves, you do for me, I do for you. My thoughts are your thoughts, Violet. If I'm being honest, the one thing I've never liked about you is that I've never seen an ounce of selflessness in you." Hearing it put that way, I guess that's really what true friendship means. But why does it sound so off when she says it? Because she considered me her close friend. She believed every choice she made on my behalf was justified, including giving away my train ticket and handing over my scholarship to someone else. I fell silent for a moment. I looked up and asked her earnestly, "So you're saying that as long as we're good friends, and as long as it's for your benefit, you can make decisions for me arbitrarily?" Bianca sobbed. "Of course." After hearing that, a bold plan started forming in my mind. "Since you put it that way, as your good friend, it's only natural I'd do what's best for you." A few minutes later, I smiled brightly and took Bianca's hand. "You're right, we're good friends. I overreacted and shouldn't have said those things." Bianca looked at me, thinking I had truly come to my senses. "It's okay, as long as you know I was only trying to help you. Just work on being less stingy in the future. Of course, I'll definitely learn from you, helping the weak and being courageous in giving." Bianca breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm so glad you see it that way." I chuckled and snatched Bianca's phone right out of her hand. She knows my password, so of course I know hers too. Under Bianca's bewildered gaze, I opened WeChat and sent a message to our advisor. Advisor, this is Bianca. I'd like to voluntarily donate my university scholarship to financially struggling classmates. I hope this can offer them some support. Send it, take a screenshot, and forward it to my number. I smiled and handed the phone back to Bianca. A few seconds later, she let out a piercing scream. Violet, what do you think you're doing? How dare you donate my scholarship without my permission? Seeing that Bianca was about to retract the message, I quickly screenshotted and posted it in the class group chat. Classmates, look how selfless Bianca is being. The group immediately erupted into discussion. Wow, Warrior Bianca is out here saving the world again. Thank you, Warrior Bianca, for your generous help. What a truly kind soul. Amid the chorus of Warrior Bianca, her face quickly flushed, and her expression twisted. She snapped at me, her face flushed with anger. You did this on purpose, didn't you, Violet? Do you have any idea how much effort I've put into this scholarship? I earned it fair and square, and now you've gone and donated it. What am I supposed to do? Of course I knew how hard Bianca had worked for that scholarship ever since freshman year. She'd rushed to the library after class and even spent weekends studying, but she wasn't particularly gifted, and despite all that effort, she only managed to secure a university-level scholarship. I blinked and showed him the group chat messages on my phone. Bianca, your family isn't that badly off. Why can't you donate? Look how grateful these underprivileged students are. Everyone was showering Bianca with praise. Even the academic advisor stepped in to commend Bianca's selfless spirit. It's a done deal. Bianca sat on the bed holding her phone, utterly dejected, yet she never uttered another word about backing out of the donation. Seeing her like this gave me a deep sense of satisfaction. Who in this world is truly a saint? You never know how much it hurts until the knife cuts your own flesh. But how could stopping at just one good deed be enough? The next day, Bianca was summoned by her advisor. I gathered her quilt and winter coats from the wardrobe, then carried them out the door. Within an hour, Bianca called me back. Violet, where are you? They said you took my quilt. What do you need it for? It's getting cold, and the stray cats on campus don't have warm shelters. I thought I could use the quilt as a cozy spot for them. Bianca let out a piercing scream from the other end of the line. I can just picture her stomping her feet in a fit of rage. You gave the blankets to them. What am I supposed to use? And my winter coat. Did you take that too? I nodded. Yes. I took them. Bring them back to me right now. The cats clearly adore this pile of junk. I chuckled and said, Bianca, I have to call you out on this. Where's your compassion? These poor little cats and dogs are suffering. I'm saying this for your own good. How can you stand by and watch them freeze to death? Bianca hung up and showed up beside me within 10 minutes. Unfortunately, she was a step too late. The blankets and jackets were already covered in cat hair. Some kittens had even left their droppings on them. Even though the blanket was filthy beyond recognition, Bianca shooed away the stray cats and dogs, then carried both the blanket and her padded coat back to the dorm. But no matter how hard she scrubbed, the stains just wouldn't come out. Staring at the ruined blanket, Bianca broke down in tears in her dorm room. Violet, how am I supposed to sleep at night? Without proper clothing, I'll freeze to death this winter. Her crying drew quite a crowd of onlookers. The girls in our class all started comforting her and blaming me. They said I acted without thinking, that it was wrong to dispose of someone else's things without permission, and that I had no morals. I listened calmly and retorted, but Bianca said we're best friends. Best friends can make decisions for each other. Besides, I wasn't doing anything bad. The blanket and clothes were so old. What's the harm in giving them to a kitten? She can just buy a new set. That's easy for you to say, but I know full well this whole setup would cost at least 2,000 yuan. Bianca's family isn't exactly poor, but her parents wouldn't just hand over 2,000 yuan without a good reason. Bianca sobbed. Where would I get that kind of money? Violet, you've really gone too far this time. Stray cats have their own fur. How could they possibly freeze to death? I waved my hand impatiently, mimicking Bianca's tone. Bianca, you're being so nitpicky. If it comes to it, I'll cover the cost for you. Hearing my words, Bianca's eyes lit up. She took out her phone and added up the cost of these items again and again, finally asking me to pay 500. I nodded slightly, pulled out the IOU she had written me from the drawer, and said magnanimously, there's 800 in here. You can keep the remaining 300. Bianca had probably forgotten all about this IOU. She looked down at the note, then back up at me. She was speechless for what felt like an eternity. She shot a pleading glance at the two people who had just spoken up for her. Unfortunately, they were just regular folks who didn't see anything wrong with what I was doing. After a few seconds, Bianca started crying again. Violet, I get it now. You're just getting back at me on purpose. Only then did I realize how masterful she was at twisting the truth. You're still hung up on what happened last year. Sure, I gave your stuff to that junior, but she was really struggling, and I told you I'd pay you back. Why are you being so aggressive about it? She thought saying this would make everyone take her side, but the other two girls in our dorm couldn't stand it anymore. Outsiders might not know her, But those of us who shared a room with her had suffered plenty because of her. Come on, Bianca, stop playing the victim. You were clearly in the wrong here. If you wanted her to have that skincare set, you should have bought it yourself. Violet scrimped and saved, working part-time every day just to afford it, and you swooped in to play the hero by gifting it to her. Exactly. I thought you'd paid her back ages ago. Turns out you never did. How shameless can you be? Ever since I was reborn, Bianca's reputation has been going downhill. Rumors about her have been spreading like wildfire throughout the school. After hearing the roommates criticize Bianca, those who had just scolded me blushed with shame. So that's how it is. Sorry, Violet. We jumped to conclusions without knowing the full story. I didn't take any of those words to heart. After all, those harsh words weren't really aimed just at me. Bianca was the one who started it. Bianca was so stunned by the public condemnation that she even forgot to cry. She snapped angrily. Why is everyone taking her side? She's clearly in the wrong here. Oh, I get it. You're all just sucking up to her because she's rich. What did she promise you? It wasn't just me. Several people that were baffled by Bianca's twisted logic. How could she possibly believe, with such conviction, that she did nothing wrong? A girl in our dorm rolled her eyes. Who are we to flatter like you do? From the first day of school, you've been calling her your bestie. Secretly using her meal card to treat others, lending out her formal dress behind her back, and even accepting snacks from someone pursuing senior Violet. My jaw dropped as I realized Bianca had been doing all these things behind my back. No wonder my meal card balance kept mysteriously dropping. I left a formal dress at school that I wore when hosting the freshman welcome party. Later I forgot to bring it home. And when I took it out, I found stains on it. And then there was that senior. That day he randomly stopped me and asked why I hadn't added him on WeChat after accepting his gift. Bianca flushed with anger and snapped, "Fine, you're all ganging up on me. I don't even have a quilt anyway. I'm not staying here tonight." With that, she stormed out of the dorm, as if afraid I'd give her any trouble. After Bianca left, she didn't return to the dorm or attend classes for several days. We had no idea she was missing until the police came to question us. The officer asked us what happened that day. After we explained everything truthfully, even the officer was speechless about her behavior. Still, he reminded us, "But she'd been gone for so long. Why didn't any of you try to look for her?" I replied, "We thought she went to find Serum. They've always been really close." The police came to see Serum again. Serum said, "She did come to me, but it was to borrow money for a blanket. I didn't lend it to her, so she left." After the police left, we found out that Bianca had a huge argument with Serum that day. Bianca felt that she had always been so good to Serum, even going out of her way to help her snag a train ticket home for the National Day holiday. Yet Serum wouldn't even do this small favor. Serum retorted, "I never asked you to snatch it for me. If it weren't for your stunt, the whole school wouldn't have found out about my dad's hemorrhoid surgery." Rumor has it their argument was quite the spectacle that day. Bianca was so furious she was trembling, vowing she'd never do a good deed again in her life. Thank heavens, I hope she keeps that promise and never uses my belongings to play the hero again. No one expected that Bianca's return to school was to withdraw. After she packed up all her belongings, we saw a short guy waiting for her downstairs. He wasn't just short, he looked more like a dwarf. Seeing Kyle's face again made me sick to my stomach. I will never be able to forget what happened when he locked me in the basement. The sheer despair still sends chills down my spine when I think about it. Bianca is gone. They say the moment she stepped out of school that day, this short guy accosted her. He was surprisingly strong and dragged her straight into a van. He kept muttering, "You promised me, if you go back on your word, I'll break your legs, just like in my past life." After Bianca was taken away by Kyle, she was locked up in the basement. It wasn't until the police arrived that Bianca was finally rescued. Bianca and Kyle are from the same village. Given what happened, Kyle should have been arrested, yet he was released within days. The reason was that Bianca's family unexpectedly issued a letter of forgiveness, claiming the two were in a consensual relationship. That's when I learned Bianca has a mentally disabled brother. Her family had been trying to find him a wife but couldn't afford it. After Kyle was arrested, his family promised to help resolve the situation, but on one condition: Kyle and Bianca had to get married. Naturally, Bianca was against the idea when she heard the news, but then, she discovered she was pregnant. The two ended up getting married after all. After the wedding, Bianca brought up the idea of going back to school. But Kyle's family believed that educated women tend to drift away. Not only did they refuse, but they also forced Bianca to withdraw from school. Bianca became the talk of the school again. Her story got wilder with each telling, but even the most persistent rumors eventually died down. By the time I graduated, hardly anyone mentioned her anymore. After graduation, I decided to move to my boyfriend's city. All my roommates had left early, leaving me alone in the dorm. Someone knocked on my door late at night. It turned out to be Bianca. She was holding a knife and lunged straight at me, but a year ago she couldn't even beat me in a fight. Even with a knife, she was no match for me. I subdued her easily and called the police. "Violet, you'll die a horrible death." Bianca screamed hysterically as I pinned her to the ground. She must have just given birth, because in her agitated state, a pool of fluid formed on the floor. She went on cursing. "You'll burn in hell for doing such a wicked thing." I smiled faintly. Realizing she had uncovered the truth, though they were from the same village, the significant age gap meant Kyle had never taken notice of Bianca. Why would they suddenly take him away? Well, because I used Bianca's number and photos to catfish Kyle online. Otherwise, how would Kyle have ended up showing up at the school? Bianca had already resigned herself to the situation, but while she was in postpartum confinement, Kyle dropped the bomb. "If you hadn't reached out to me first. Did you really think I'd have given you a second look?" Bianca pressed Kyle for the truth and followed the clues right back to this. "But what does it matter if I know now?" "It's all too late," I said. "I did it for your own good. Weren't you always saying how good-looking my boyfriend is and that you wanted someone who looks like him? Look at your husband. He's the spitting image of him, and he likes you too." "Oh, wait. You're not looking down on him because he's disabled, are you?" Bianca broke down. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You've ruined my entire life, you bitch. If you're so desperate to get married, why didn't you use your own photos to talk to him? What gives you the right to use mine?" I smirked and said, "Weren't you the one who said we're such good friends that I can do whatever I want with your things? Why can't you take a joke?" I spread my hands. "Besides, you love helping others so much. Why not consider this charity work?" Even though Kyle is uneducated, broke, and selfish, but he hits people. Bianca glared at me even more fiercely. She kept yelling at me until the police arrived. She told the police that I had framed her for being raped and that she had come back for revenge. "You shouldn't be arresting me. You should be arresting her." I walked up to her and said in disbelief, "Bianca, you can't just throw around accusations like that. If you're going to say these things, you need evidence. Where's your proof?" This matter is so far in the past, there's no trace of it left. Even if Bianca calls her husband over, it won't make a difference. Why would Kyle ever testify against himself for the crime? On the contrary, it's absolutely certain that Bianca wanted to kill me. She's bound to end up in jail. However, after her family showed up, I decided to forgive her. After all, staying comfortably at the police station versus going home to endure Kyle's abuse, I'd rather let Bianca have the latter. After leaving the police station, I went back to my school, grabbed my things, and rushed to the train station. Just as I stepped out of the school gate, a man stopped me. Seeing his familiar face, I smiled. My boyfriend had come to pick me up. Truly wonderful. Story 2. I am the ancient rainbow clam, the dragon prince's concubine. 3 centuries after my death, he finally remembered me. He came to the divine realm, seeking another pearl from me to save his principal wife. My guardian Nerissa has grown old and frail. She told the crown prince I'd been dead for 300 years. He scoffed. She'd say anything to keep those pearls from me. Tell her that if she saves Briar, I'll bring her back to the dragon palace. Suddenly, his gaze turned murderous when he saw the daughter who was my spitting image. Fine. Just 300 years and you couldn't wait. Already had a child, since she refuses to show herself. Don't blame this king for taking the child's pearl. The divine realm was blanketed in heavy snowfall. That was a punishment devised by Axton. Not a single snowflake touched where he stood, creating a stark contrast with the surroundings. He yanked the daughter who was hiding behind Nerissa. A mocking smirk played on his lips. "Ha, the resemblance is uncanny. Impressive, Arya, managing to bear a child even in this impenetrable divine realm. If I ever find out which bastard was cunning enough to pull this off, I'll tear him limb from limb." He conjured a blade and drew it across his daughter Brielle's palm. A wound gleaming with iridescent divine blood appeared in an instant. Brielle burst into loud, wailing sobs from the pain. Amid her cries, the iridescent divine blood on her palm emitted a strangely sweet fragrance. So this is Arya's daughter. If she won't crawl out to face me, I'll just take her daughter's pearl instead. Nerissa knelt trembling before Axton. The heavy snow left her shivering uncontrollably. "Your Highness." "The concubine, she's been dead for 300 years, Axton frowned impatiently. "She's the primordial rainbow clam. Consuming her flesh grants immortality. Her pearls cure all ailments. She existed when the Creator shaped the cosmos. I'll die before she ever does." Telling such lies. It's just because you heard Briar was injured and didn't want to save her, isn't it? It's just a pearl, not her life. Doesn't she have plenty more where that came from, floating midair? My heart still ached with a dull, heavy pain. How strange. I've been dead for over 300 years, so why can I still feel pain? My heart aches for Nerissa, for my dear Brielle. Nerissa crawled forward on her knees and shielded Brielle with her arms. "Your Highness, I swear it's true. The concubine died 3 centuries ago." Axton let out a cold laugh. "Then you leave me no choice." His eyes turned icy as he lifted Brielle into the air with unseen force. He shouted into the cavern, "Arya, you only get one chance. Come out now, or I'll use your daughter's pearls. They're all rainbow clams anyway. Whose pearls we use makes no difference." Brielle choked as she was squeezed midair, flailing her tiny arms desperately. "You monster." Absolute villain. Nerissa lay prostrate in the snow, pounding her forehead against the ground in desperate kowtows. Your Highness, I beg you, Brielle's just a child. Please spare her. Axton snorted coldly before releasing his grip, sending Brielle crashing to the ground. The impact knocked the wind out of her. Tell her if she doesn't show up tomorrow, she'll regret it. This child born from adultery will belong to me. He turned away with a flick of his sleeve and left without another word. Nerissa held Brielle tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. Auntie, who is he? Nerissa's gaze flickered as she let out a bitter laugh. Just passing through. My heart ached as I watched the two of them weeping bitterly. Axton, you can't even recognize your own child. The other man, I wonder what expression he'll make when he finds out who it is. Come to think of it, he never cared about me. How could he possibly connect Brielle to being his child, even if he knew? He'd never acknowledged Brielle as his own. Nerissa led Brielle deeper into the cave, frantically started packing my things. I let out a sigh of relief. Nerissa still remembers what I told her. I told her before I died, if Axton ever comes looking for me, you must run as far as you can. No matter how difficult it is, you have to escape. I bowed slightly before Nerissa. Nerissa, I'm sorry for dragging you into this. She caressed the jade hairpin I gave her, her eyes brimming with longing. My lady, I owe you my life. Rest assured, I'll protect Brielle with everything I have. Watching her bustling figure, a wave of melancholy washed over me. It felt like stepping back 100 years in time. A conk's lifespan is merely 2 centuries. Back then, I saw her struggling, stuck doing the lowest cleaning jobs on the seabed, bullied and beaten black and blue by countless others. I slit my palm and gave her a few drops of my divine rainbow blood. It healed her wounds, extended her lifespan, and kept her by my side. That simple act stayed with her for a lifetime. She often says, she could never repay my kindness in this lifetime. 300 years ago, Axton confined me to the divine realm for solitary reflection. It was Nerissa who volunteered to stand guard. 3 centuries passed in the blink of an eye. I thought Axton had forgotten about me. Even death brings me no peace. Nerissa quickly gathered her belongings and quietly slipped out with Brielle in her arms. She turned her head toward me and let out a heavy sigh, then hastily took Brielle and made a quick exit. The jade hairpin I gave her can protect them temporarily. It contains the last remnants of my consciousness. It could buy them some time to evade pursuit, but the effect would only last for an incense stick's worth of time. Yet it was enough. Once they crossed the North Sea, they'd be safe from their pursuers. Little did they know, danger awaited just beyond the cave mouth. Was caught by Axton, who hadn't left. He stood ahead, with a mere flick of his hand unleashing such overwhelming force that Nerissa and Brielle were forced to their knees, completely immobilized. I shouted frantically from the sidelines, Axton, the crown prince of the North Sea Dragon Palace, stooping to bully those weaker than himself, and you call yourself the people's beloved public servant. Pity he couldn't hear my furious curses. I was in despair. Axton was ruthless, and I knew exactly what he was capable of. My daughter's chances were slim. He looked down at the two with condescension, planning to run away. Are we? Nerissa spoke with difficulty. And no, we wouldn't dare. Oh, scared. Then gave a sweeping glance up and down. You prefer the hard way, huh? Suddenly, Brielle broke free from the restraints. With a sudden leap, it opened its tiny mouth and sank its teeth hard into Axton. You monster. Bully, meanie, absolute villain. My heart felt like it was being crushed in an iron grip. Too, the pain left me gasping for air. Brielle, don't go. Axton will kill Brielle for sure, even if she's his own daughter, because she's mine. Axton never expected Brielle to lash out so suddenly. In a moment of carelessness, he felt Brielle's teeth sink viciously into his leg. His eyes turned ice cold in an instant. With a slight exertion, he lifted her bodily into the air, just like your mother, asking for death. Brielle glared at him venomously, spitting out the words, "Don't you dare speak of my mother." Nerissa's face was streaked with tears as she repeatedly banged her head against the ground. It was a bloody mess. I was pacing around frantically. That bastard Axton. A surge of intense hatred overwhelmed me, yet there was nothing I could do. Nerissa choked out between sobs. My lord, I beg you to release Brielle. I've already told you. The concubine died 300 years ago. Axton's grip tightened another fraction. Oh, is that so? Since she's dead, I'll just use her daughter's pearls then. The potency might be weaker, but at least there's plenty to go around. Brielle's face had turned a sickly shade of purple from suffocation. Nerissa stammered in desperation. Your Highness, Brielle is your daughter. I snapped my head toward Nerissa. How did she know? I'd never told Nerissa about Brielle's origins. She'd never asked either. Could it be? You'd say any lie to avoid saving Briar. Clearly unconvinced, he blew gently toward you, instantly encasing Brielle's arm in an icy grip of bone-chilling cold. Brielle wailed in pain as her arm visibly turned blue and purple from the frostbite. No response came from Crimson. Axton is a water dragon specializing in cryomancy. Not even self-healing cure beasts could withstand this demigod-level frost magic, unless one carries Axton's draconic bloodline, but Brielle's true form is a rainbow-colored clam. 3 centuries ago, Briar falsely accused me of poisoning her by exploiting Axton's favor to win his beloved smile. Axton froze me solid with an ice spell, imprisoned in this divine realm to reflect on my supposed sins. It took 100 years to melt the ice encasing me, but Brielle's just a child. She suffered frostbite in my womb. How could she possibly endure this now? He let out a cold laugh. My own bloodline can't withstand my cryomancy. Preposterous. Do I really have to accept being cuckolded like this? Cuckolded, even if Axton acknowledges Brielle's lineage, her true form remains that colorful clam. Axton, you're utterly clueless, he shouted confidently to his surroundings. Arya, I've changed my mind. I'll give you one more chance. If you don't come out now, I'll not only take her pearl, but I'll also freeze her in this divine realm forever. Nerissa grew frantic, wanting to rush forward and snatch Brielle away. But she was just a conch. Before she could even approach, Axton's frost magic left her bruised and battered. Her agonized cries echoed throughout the divine realm. Axton, Axton, I regret it all so deeply. I regret ever believing your honeyed words. I regret becoming your concubine. Axton withdrew his spell, but Brielle's arm had already been frozen to splinters. Gritting her teeth through the pain, Brielle crawled toward Nerissa, slashed her wrist open, and let her blood drip onto Nerissa's body. Only then did the pain subside. Brielle screamed in fury, "You monster! Who are you? My mother is already dead. Why won't you let her rest? My mother is gone. I'm her daughter. If you want revenge, take it out on me. Whatever grudge you hold against my mother has nothing to do with Auntie." Axton's brow furrowed, her lips parted, but no words came out. He probably couldn't bring himself to admit I was the concubine of the mighty Northern Sea Crown Prince. He once said I was the shame of his life. Nerissa's face turned deathly pale. Though the pain had subsided, she'd already lost half her vitality. She struggled to her feet. The fear in her eyes toward Axton vanished completely, leaving only mockery. She looked at Axton and laughed. "Your Highness, didn't you wish to see the concubine? Then follow me." Axton saw her finally submit. Thought she was scared of him, curled his lips in mockery. Why resist when you'd end up here anyway? All that suffering for nothing. Free. Nerissa staggered forward unsteadily, throwing her head back in laughter. She murmured, oh concubine, is this truly the father for whom you'd risk your life to bear a child? How pitiful you are. I'm so sorry, Nerissa. I truly am. I wish I could go back to the day I met Axton. I would turn away without a second thought. Wouldn't have a single thing to do with him. After a long journey, I finally stood before my own tomb, the deepest sanctum of the divine realm. Nerissa produced the jade hairpin I'd given her, plunging it into the rock face before me would dismantle the barrier spell I'd cast. Axton frowned at the jade hairpin. This is my only piece of jewelry, and the sole gift Axton ever gave me, just a trinket bought from the mortal realm. He stared at it for a long moment before speaking. There was a hint of anger in the tone. Now that she's got a lover, she's even giving away the gifts I gave her. Nerissa snorted coldly, struggling to drive the jade hairpin into the rock wall, but the injuries were too severe to succeed. I'm sorry, Nerissa. I shouldn't have set the array's focal point so high. After several failed attempts, she crashed heavily onto the ground. Axton flew into a rage and yanked Nerissa up violently. You're playing me. Didn't you want to see the concubine? She's right inside. Nerissa gazed at the towering array core and heaved a heavy sigh. Axton snorted coldly, thrusting the jade hairpin forcefully into the array's focal point. The stone wall slid open with a resonant sound, but there was nothing behind the rock wall. Axton felt completely played. An overwhelming aura of malice radiated from him, instantly dropping the cave's temperature. Nerissa leaned against the stone wall, shivering violently from the cold. I wanted to hold her, but couldn't. At this freezing temperature, she'll die of hypothermia, especially after sustaining such severe injuries. Yet Nerissa seemed unfazed by the cold, murmuring into the air, Consort, it's been a long time, so long that my corpse has turned to dust. With a sweep of his arm, Axton seized Brielle by the throat, lifting her as she struggled desperately in his grip. Fine, you think messing with me is fun, just like Arya, don't you? Then let's sacrifice her and the bastard's daughter to the heavens. With a flick of his hand, he crushed Brielle back into her true form. He pried open Brielle's clamshell with brute force. Just one pearl. Seems your mother's lover wasn't much of a catch. I screamed at the top of my lungs, but he couldn't hear me. Axton kept me frozen for a century, while Brielle suffered 100 years of frostbite in my womb, barely alive when she was born. By then I was burning my last candle. So I passed my remaining life force to Brielle for her to grow up safely. But Brielle is just a bottom-tier rainbow clam, only a single pearl inside. I screamed in utter despair. Axton, are you really going to kill your own child with your bare hands? A thick metallic scent of blood wafted through the divine realm's entrance. The next moment, Axton's primary consort was half carried into the chamber. Her face was deathly pale, with faint traces of blood still clinging to her lips. Axton, don't force your sister if she refuses. Briar won't have you compromising your dignity for my sake. She rubbed her arms for warmth, her lips trembling from the cold. Axton rushed over and pulled her into a warm embrace, sharing his body heat with her. Even after Axton withdrew his magic, the chamber remained bitterly cold. 3 centuries of divine snow had accumulated here, its chill piercing to the very bones. Don't be afraid, Briar, I'd do anything for you. My love, even if that woman doesn't show up, there's still her daughter. A rosy blush spread across Briar's face, nestling her head against Axton's chest. She lowered her gaze with a fleeting glint of ruthlessness. Nerissa regained some strength and burst into laughter while staring at Axton. Axton, if you dare lay a finger on Brielle, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Mark my words. Axton let out a cold chuckle. Oh really? Let's see how you'll make me regret this. As he spoke, golden light emanated from his palm, in a flash. Brielle's pearl was in Axton's grasp. Brielle let out an agonized scream. The forcibly pried open clamshell emitted a draconic roar. Axton froze in shock. That unmistakable sound belonged solely to dragonkind. Though merely a clam, Brielle still carried the bloodline of dragons. Axton's eyes widened as he stared blankly at the pearl still shimmering with divine iridescence in his palm, unaware of Axton's strange demeanor. Briar shot him a meaningful glance. Her maidservant stepped forward and picked up the pearl still warm from Brielle's touch. Congratulations, Your Highness, the crown princess shall be saved. I'll go clean up this filth right away. Axton remained motionless, staring blankly at Brielle who was about to fade away. Briar theatrically coughed up another mouthful of blood. She said weakly, Axton, what's wrong with you? Why does Briar think you're acting strange? Axton kept staring relentlessly at Brielle. She shot a meaningful glance at the maid behind her. The maid understood instantly, crushing the barely breathing Brielle beneath her foot with a sickening crunch. I could no longer bear the agony of losing my daughter, and let out a desperate cry to the heavens. When I awoke again, maidservants were kneeling all around me. We humbly welcome your highness back from your tribulation. Only then did I remember. I was originally the dragon princess of the East Sea Crystal Palace. While descending to bring rain upon the mortal realm, I was caught in a heavenly thunder tribulation and rescued by the passing Arya. She nurtured the remnants of my divine consciousness within her own body, but alas, Axton soon imprisoned us both in the divine realm, my consciousness trapped alongside her. I witnessed Arya exhaust every ounce of her strength bringing Brielle into this world. Witnessing Axton brutally murder Brielle, I swear to avenge Arya who has already faded away. With this thought, I approached the water mirror to see what had happened after my departure. After the maid crushed Brielle beneath her feet, the entire mountainside began to tremble violently. Nerissa leaned against the wall, chuckling softly. Briar sensed Nerissa's presence, and snapped angrily. How dare you act so recklessly, you insolent whelk. Nerissa wiped the blood from her lips with force. Whether you permit it or not, this old crone has had her share of recklessness. Then she glared at Axton with pure hatred. I laugh at the crown prince, he actually killed his own daughter with his bare hands. Nerissa's expression changed instantly as she struggled up to trigger a mechanism. The cave began collapsing. Coughing into her hand, Briar grabbed Axton's sleeve. Axton. This place is collapsing. We need to get out now. But Axton stood frozen like a statue, unmoving. He just kept staring blankly at Brielle's shattered remains. Suddenly, a realization seemed to hit Axton. His face twisted in horror as he stumbled forward, gently cradling the shattered pieces of Brielle. Arya, you're lying to me again, aren't you? Brielle isn't really my child, is she? You're not really dead either, are you? Nerissa propped herself up and slowly released the divine blood Arya had transferred to her years ago. The spilled divine blood transformed into rippling mirrors upon touching the ground. Those were Arya's memories. A millennium ago, Axton led celestial armies to vanquish the Demon King. The Demon King was utterly ruthless, wreaking havoc upon the mortal realm. The world suffered unspeakable torment. Axton searched endlessly but found no trace of the Demon King. Instead, he stumbled into the Demon King's prearranged miasma labyrinth. Arya happened to pass by and saved him with a pearl. During his recovery, they developed feelings for each other. Axton promised to make Arya his consort, but everything changed when Briar appeared. Axton began siding with Briar. He even bought into her twisted version of events, claiming the ancient divine clan was actually the Demon King's daughter. Worse still, he came to believe Arya was the Demon King's spy planted among them. It was all part of some ulterior motive, until Arya discovered Briar's dealings with the demon realm. Briar framed Arya by planting evidence of demonic correspondence in her chambers. She then ingested a specially brewed poison, claiming Arya had poisoned her. Unable to defend herself, Arya was frozen by Axton and banished to the divine realm. Arya was already pregnant at that time. To protect the child, she begged him tearfully to spare her. She told him she was carrying his child. He scoffed. Still trying to fool me, how could a mere clam spirit conceive the child of a dragon? Axton ignored Arya's desperate pleas and sobs. Resolutely, he confined her to the divine realm. Even then, Briar refused to let her be. Arya, as long as you live, my secret will eventually come to light. I'll make sure you vanish without a trace. Little did they know Axton had placed a containment spell to prevent her escape. which also barred Briar from entering. Briar held this grudge against her for 3 centuries. After giving birth to Brielle, she completely exhausted her divine power. I've been sustaining my spiritual consciousness with the residual divine energy in the jade hairpin she left behind. For 3 centuries, Briar has been obsessively plotting Lu Tangzhen's demise. Now she's devised another vicious scheme, ingesting specially crafted poison once more. 5. Inform Axton that the poison Arya administered to her 300 years ago has flared up again. Only Arya's Pro could cure her poison. The plan was to have Axton take her into the divine realm and kill Arya when the chance arose. Let's just say she knew Axton all too well. True to form, Axton didn't disappoint her. Arya's memory ends here. Briar noticed Axton was starting to trust Arya once again. She resorted to her old trick, coughing up blood, but unexpectedly. Axton didn't rush to Briar's side as he usually would. He stood coldly aside, crushing the maid's head into fragments with a casual squeeze. His gaze lifted toward Briar, who was screaming and covered in blood. "Do you still want this pearl?" She shook her head frantically, stammering incoherently. "No, stop it." Through Arya's memories, Axton had learned Briar was the descendant of the Demon King. To force Arya into keeping the secret, Briar repeatedly framed her with malicious schemes. Blinded by Briar's lies, they even took their own child's life with their hands. With a sweeping gesture, he took Briar away. The scene faded to black. Even though Axton knew he'd wronged Arya, her death was inextricably tied to him, and to think he'd slain his own child with his bare hands. Suddenly, something occurred to me as I read this. I rushed toward the divine realm in haste. Arya had actually given birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The girl Brielle's true form was a radiant divine clam. The boy Kaelin turned out to be a genuine white dragon. I scoured the entire divine realm, yet not a trace of living souls remained. Then Kaelin must have been taken by Axton. Without another thought, I set off alone for the northern sea. Your Highness, the East Sea reigns supreme among the 4 seas. It's only natural they'd pay respects to me. Glanced at Briar kneeling on the ground. She seems to be living the high life. Your Highness, what brings you here? Axton rushed over upon receiving the message. I'd rather not have much contact with this heartless man, said coldly. Tell Kaelin to come out. Might I ask, Your Highness, when has my son ever had the honor of making your acquaintance? I let out a derisive laugh. Since when does the North Sea meddle in the affairs of the East Sea? Though reluctant, Axton had no choice but to obey my command. Kaelin was brought forward. To my surprise, she embraced me affectionately. Auntie. Why did it take you so long to come? I froze momentarily, realizing he must have sensed my presence when his mother nurtured my consciousness. Kaelin, would you like to come back to Donhai with your aunt? Your Highness, why are you trying to take my son away? I glared coldly at Axton. Whether he's willing or not, ask him yourself. I gazed at Kaelin with affection, and he gave me a firm nod. Before Axton could say anything, I took Kaelin back to the Eastern Sea, on the other side. Briar and her maid visibly relaxed when they saw me take Kaelin away. Axton hasn't made any moves since learning her true identity. He never came to see her. Whenever she tried to get close to Axton, he'd make excuses to visit Kaelin's courtyard. The maid beside her noticed Briar's thoughts. There's no need for concern, my lady. 6. The Crown Prince has forbidden us from seeing Prince Kaelin. Now that Prince Kaelin has been taken to the Eastern Sea, this is our perfect opportunity to strike. Briar's sorrow turned to joy upon hearing the maid's words. The next day, Briar came bearing armfuls of gifts and presented me with a formal visiting card. Day after day of these visits, I'm growing thoroughly sick of them, yet I've no proper excuse to turn him away. Kaelin, your father's queen consort is here to see you. Shall I admit her? Kaelin's eyes darted about mischievously. Let her in then. I affectionately ruffled his hair. Who knows what hardships he endured up north? He's filled out since coming to stay with me. He's grown into quite the little man now. Fine, let her in then. Briar arrived as usual, laden with armfuls of gifts for Kaelin. Sometimes it was gold and jewels, other times, sweet pastries and cakes. Yet Kaelin never spoke to him. Someone had sent her to the mortal realm to fetch some trinkets. Kaelin began speaking to her. My handmaiden asked if I wanted Briar driven away. The Northern Sea Crown Princess came to visit the Eastern Sea Princess, only to be turned away. How utterly improper. Until one evening when I was taking Kaelin for a stroll, several demon tribesmen suddenly charged out from the shadows. The moment has come. Watching the demon tribesmen kneeling on the ground. How did you sneak in here? These demonkin refused to talk. They only confessed under torture that Briar sent them to assassinate me and Kaelin. What a suicidal move. I clapped my hands to summon Axton and Briar over. Briar crouched down affectionately upon seeing Kaelin. Kaelin obediently ran into his arms. The North Sea informants had long since reported that Briar was using Kaelin to ease tensions with Axton. Just as I was about to pull Kaelin back, he burst into tears in Briar's arms. Father, the royal consort, Her Majesty pinched me. Axton immediately began inspecting anxiously. only to find several dark purple handprints clearly visible on Kaylin's little bottom. 7. But I saw perfectly clearly Briar never laid a finger on him. Suddenly it dawned on me why Kaylin had been so affectionate with Briar. He'd been waiting for this day too. Briar immediately dropped to her knees in terror. I didn't do anything. Ignoring her pleas, Axton unleashed his frost magic once more. With a reflexive surge of demonic energy, Briar deflected the spell. The Eastern Sea immediately went on high alert. The demon tribe, thought extinct for millennia, had not only reappeared but could withstand dragon attacks. Seeing her cover blown, Briar abandoned all pretense of concealment. Axton, I, a princess of the demon race, have stooped to become your consort. How dare you carry a clam in your heart? Axton snapped out of it and shielded Kaylin behind him. Did you frame Arya? That's right. It was me all along. I'm the one who made you doubt Arya. I made you kill your own child with your hands, but everything I did was for your sake. I couldn't help but laugh at Briar's remarks. Briar continued, who would have thought Arya gave birth to 2 little bastards? I was going to make that bastard call me mother. Well, I recognize you too, who knew this wretched spawn would be so ungrateful. Since you dragons refuse to show proper respect, don't blame me for what comes next. Briar unleashed her full demonic power and charged straight at Axton and his son. The moment I sensed Briar's demonic energy, I realized she had enhanced her powers using Arya's pearl. I instantly dashed forward to intercept the attack, channeling psychic energy to activate the pearl inside Briar. I subdued her immediately, kneeling on the ground. Briar glared at us with smoldering fury in her eyes. Axton, your divine power shouldn't be this weak. Has it really been years since we last met? Axton gazed tenderly at Kaylin cradled in his arms. I've transferred half of my divine power to Kaylin. Such profound devotion treated as worthless as roadside weeds. Axton, your crown princess is in your hands now. With those words, I began my seclusion. Though Arya nourished my spiritual consciousness, I remained severely weakened. Withstanding Briar's lethal strike had taken everything I had. This meditation lasted 2 centuries, when Kaylin emerged again. He had become the crown prince of the North Sea. Rumor has it that after Axton brought Briar back, he imprisoned them in the divine realm. Their limbs were broken, and they were subjected to daily frost torture. Seizing the moment, Axton eradicated all remaining demonic remnants in one decisive strike. The bond between father and son grew steadily warmer. Axton transferred all his divine power to Kaylin. His body was gradually failing due to the demonic corruption sustained during the East Sea incident. Legend says he was consumed by his own power before death, an ice-wielding dragon who froze himself alive. Briar sensed Axton's death in the divine realm. Just as she was about to break free, Kaylin intervened personally to intensify Briar's punishment. Now Briar will likely remain imprisoned for eternity. We greet Auntie's triumphant return. Kaylin came to visit me specifically after hearing I'd emerged from seclusion. I gazed at the once scrawny little dragon who'd now become the illustrious crown prince of the North Sea. I sighed with genuine emotion toward Nerissa and Arya in the heavens. Rest assured, the little one you worried about has grown into a fine adult. Story 2. As a girl who loves a good bargain, I navigate the world of discount groups while the ladies downstairs band together for grocery sales. Just before a torrential downpour heralded what seemed like the end of days, I luckily hoarded a pile of discounted goods, a move that inadvertently saved my life. One evening, just past 8 p.m., several messages popped up in the discount chat group. To thank our loyal and new customers, our biggest sale ever is about to start. Limited quantities, first come first served. These discount groups sell slightly damaged goods at reduced prices, but the quality and usability remain unaffected. Being a bargain hunter, I've joined more discount groups than I have contacts in my Instagram. With just a minute to go before the sale, I was wide-eyed and holding my breath. Everyone loves a good deal, and it was all about speed now. Soon, a countdown began on my phone screen. 3, 2, 1, go. Big brand self-heating hot pots, originally 119 yuan per box, now just 59 yuan. Wow, 50% off. I'll take 10 boxes. Then another link flashed by. Various instant noodles, originally 59 yuan per box, now 39 yuan. With a limit of 2 boxes per flavor: braised beef, spicy sour cabbage, chicken mushroom, seafood, 2 boxes of each flavor, and there's my year's supply of instant noodles, alcohol blocks, great for outdoor picnics, originally 30 yuan per box, now just 9 yuan. Buy 5 boxes and get a free tower stove. What's there to hesitate about? A discount and a free stove, sanitary pads, wet wipes, and tissue sets from big brands, originally 79 yuan per set, now just 39 yuan. Such significant savings aren't common. I thought about the almost finished rolls at home and quickly ordered 10 sets. Juice drinks, 5 flavors, originally 39 yuan per set, now 29 yuan. They're 2L each. I'll take 2 sets. Then came frozen foods, hot pot bases, ready-to-eat meals, pure milk, 8 treasure porridge, canned lunch meat, various snacks, cured meats, dry sausages. Discounts save money, but they can also make you lose your senses. By dawn, the sale had ended on time. I looked at my significantly depleted savings, belatedly realizing I had been too impulsive, spending over 10,000 yuan. Considering that as a monthly salaried worker earning 5,000 yuan, I had saved up for over a year, but then, thinking about not having to spend extra on supplies for the next few months, I quickly came to terms with it. The same products are nearly half the price in these groups compared to supermarkets. Buying them is a true saving. I really am a master of saving money. The next morning, I received a private message from the group admin, due to the large amount I spent. The store would prioritize home delivery. Delighted by this good news, I turned around to see the empty water dispenser and immediately opened the water purchasing app. The app quickly displayed a notification. To thank our customers, we now offer 1 free bottle for every 10 purchased. Who can refuse a free bottle of water? Since the store running the promotion was in the same city, the delivery staff arrived that afternoon. Box after box filled my living room. A few boxes of self-heating hot pots were left, not too heavy, so I let the delivery person leave and casually carried 3 boxes back myself. Halfway there, I suddenly heard a snicker. "Phoebe, you never change, always going for these cheap goods." It was Lincoln, my ex-boyfriend who had cheated last month. We lived in the same complex and met through mutual friends. Despite his honest appearance, he was a philanderer, with more girls in his contacts than I have discount groups in my phone. Even post-breakup, he often harassed and mocked me for my bargain hunting. Looking down at the self-heating hot pots in my arms, I thought, why aren't they presentable? Just because the outer packaging is a bit damaged. People like Lincoln, who naturally love to show off their sense of superiority, are unreasonable. I put down the boxes, took a few steps forward, and slapped him hard across the face, followed by a few strong kicks. Good dogs don't block the road. Get lost. Lincoln was stunned. And it was his girlfriend who reacted first, threatening with her phone. "How can you hit people? Believe it or not, I'll call the police." "Call the police." I laughed and pulled out my phone. "Let them come. I have something I'd like to show everyone." Realizing something, Lincoln's expression changed. "Forget it. What's the point in arguing with a crazy woman?" He then forcibly pushed his girlfriend into a nearby apartment building. As the drama dispersed, the onlookers looked on, their expressions showing they wished there was more to see. An elderly lady approached and asked, "Young lady, what were you saying you'd share with us earlier?" Me, of course, I couldn't possibly spill the beans about Lincoln's shabby affairs. After all, some things lose their value once spoken aloud. Once I got home, I cleared out the storage room first. The apartment has 2 bedrooms and a living room. My best friend occupies the other bedroom. Taking advantage of the shift adjustments this week, she took a 3-day mini vacation to visit her hometown. The supplies I bought, over 10,000 worth, weren't a lot, but they filled the storage room to the brim. Just as I was checking the orders, it suddenly started raining outside. The raindrops, large as soybeans, hit the windows rapidly and forcefully. A thin mist quickly enveloped the entire neighborhood. At that moment, a message popped up on my phone. It was a red heavy rain alert issued by the Meteorological Bureau. Soon after, a notice was also posted in the company group chat. "Dear colleagues, the Meteorological Bureau has issued a red heavy rain alert. To support the government's efforts, the company has decided to close for 3 days from May 19th to May 21st. Please cease all outdoor activities during this period and avoid going out unless necessary. Ensure to close all doors and windows to guarantee your personal safety." 3 days off, I looked up at the curtain of rain outside the window, a sense of unease building up inside. The fact that even our stingy boss had to give us time off indicated the severity of the impending heavy rainfall. However, looking at the supplies crammed into the storage room, I quickly reassured myself, what harm could more rain do? If anything, I just wouldn't go outside, if I budget carefully. The supplies I've stocked are enough to last me half a year without any issues. The only real worry is the potential loss of water or power. I thought for a moment and then charged my old phone and 2 power banks. I also filled the bathtub and kitchen sink with water. I glanced over the pots and pans in the kitchen. Not enough, still not enough. Cooking, washing clothes, washing my face, brushing my teeth. Doesn't each one require water? Though back in my hometown, we have the custom of storing rainwater in cisterns. Rainwater, after all, comes into contact with bacteria during its descent. It's best avoided unless absolutely necessary. With this concern in mind, I paced around the room, my gaze suddenly pausing on the blanket on the bed. Last year, when I moved, I bought several large transparent sealable bags to keep the dust off the bedding. I still have about a dozen unused ones, each sized 100 centimeters by 130 centimeters. Although tap water can also deteriorate if left in the air too long, it's comforting to be overprepared than to do nothing at all. Soon, the community group chat also forwarded a notice from the local government. "Dear residents, the Meteorological Bureau has issued a persistent red heavy rain alert. Please ensure all doors and windows are securely closed and avoid going out to prevent unnecessary losses." Despite such messages, many in the group didn't take it seriously. We've had typhoons in past years, and life went on as usual, didn't it? Schools are closed, companies are shut down, finally a legitimate reason to rest. The school just announced they're letting out 2 hours early today. Anyone want to join me to pick up the kids? Seeing the casual banter of the residents in the group chat, my anxiety eased. I'm not a local. Indeed, I don't have the experience these locals have with typhoon days, but if these locals are saying there's no need to panic, perhaps things aren't as bad as I imagined. Maybe I was overreacting. Relieved, I started distracting myself by scrolling through videos online. Messages kept popping up in the discount group chat. Most were customers asking if the heavy rain would affect shipping. Yes, sadly, even the shop owner was helpless. Due to the red heavy rain alert, the shop had been forced to close, let alone ship orders on time. The group was filled with complaints, and the owner could only try his best to soothe the customers, promising more discounts once the rain stopped. Unexpectedly, this persistent red heavy rain alert in Lawn City made the trending searches, catching the attention of my relatives far away in the northwest. Dad, Mom, don't worry. I live in a high-rise building with dozens of floors. The rain can't reach me here. Auntie, I have plenty of food here. I won't starve. Cousin, just relax. I've taped up the windows with duct tape to make sure no rain gets in. After addressing my relatives' concerns, I finally took a deep breath. Back home in the northwest, surrounded by high mountains and deep inland, we seldom see rainfall, let alone such severe storm warnings. I leaned against the window, watching the blurred scene outside in the neighborhood. It's just a severe storm, after all. I didn't believe it could rain continuously for 3 days, but as it turned out, I underestimated nature. A severe rainstorm did indeed last for 3 days and seemed to be getting stronger. On the first day, the water in the flower beds of our complex overflowed. By the second day, the accumulated water had seeped into the garage, causing endless complaints from the residents. On the third day, the rainwater flooded into the first floor of the buildings, and panic finally set in among the inhabitants. How is this rainstorm even happening? How many days has it been raining now? Yes, we've had heavy rains in the past, but there were always breaks. This time, it's relentless. Let's not worry about whether it stops or not. Does anyone have a moment to lend a hand? Water is getting into my house. Seeing this message, several kind-hearted residents quickly volunteered to help. This is probably the goodness inherent in human nature. Helping others within one's capabilities, holding a can of steaming 8 treasure porridge. I sighed contentedly. Electricity and gas had been cut off since the second day of the severe rainstorm, being able to enjoy a hot meal now, all thanks to the alcohol blocks I had bought before the storm. On the 5th day of the rainstorm, the rain pelted the windows like pebbles, sending shivers down my spine. I had never seen such heavy rain in my life. It was as if an army was charging down, unstoppable. Back in my hometown, we had seen heavy rains, but they never lasted this long. A continuous 5-day downpour was unheard of. I stared out the window, watching the fierce storm and feeling the slight tremors of the window panes. Suddenly, water began seeping through the gaps sealed with tape. I quickly grabbed a rag to wipe it dry. Over these days, our community's chat group had turned into a mutual aid group. My child has a fever. Does anyone have medicine? Ibuprofen or cold sachets would do. All our groceries are gone, but we still have some instant noodles and pasta. Would anyone like to trade? My house is flooded. Can someone please offer shelter? Willing to pay? Seeing more and more messages in the group chat made my heart heavy again, especially when someone mentioned that the neighboring county was a flood discharge area. I suddenly remembered that my best friend's hometown was in that county. Hey Quinn, how are things over there? Before I could finish, I sensed a heaviness in my friend's mood. Phoebe, our area is too low-lying. Tens of thousands of acres of crops, all flooded. How are you and your parents? The waters entered our home. We had to move to higher ground. Leaning by the window, I saw the message my friend had just sent me and couldn't help but tear up. 301902. That's the password to my bedroom. There's some food there, and a first aid kit. If you feel unwell, remember to take some medicine. Don't be too trusting if rescue doesn't come. Don't foolishly give everything away. Phoebe, you must take care. While I was cooking instant noodles, I went to the window to check the situation again. The cars that had barely managed to leave the underground garage were once again submerged in water. Looking out the window, only a little of the car roofs could be seen. Since the heavy rain started, the first thing I do each morning is to check in with my family. The sound of the relentless rain mixed with my mother's nagging strangely settled my mood. With the temperature dropping for several days, several residents in the building started having low-grade fevers, but with over a meter of water, no external vehicles could come in, and no vehicles could leave the complex. The exchange of supplies in the mutual aid group was increasing. People were running out of water, others were out of food, everyone was trapped at home, passively waiting for rescue. On the 10th day of the rainstorm, the water had risen to the 3rd floor. Residents on the third floor cursed as they moved their belongings upstairs. The rescue team was still nowhere in sight, and the atmosphere in the building grew more tense. Today, the quarreling from downstairs continued for a long time. I listened intently but unfortunately couldn't figure out the reason. Electricity had been out for a while now, even though I still had 2 fully charged power banks. I dared not waste them since I didn't know when the power would be restored. My daily chats with my family also shortened from half an hour to just a few hurried sentences. Today, it was still my mom who answered the phone. I was feeling a bit odd. Why hasn't my dad called me recently? There was a pause on the other end of the phone before the voice continued. Your dad's in the bathroom. Should I go find him so you can talk? No need. It was only after I hung up that I felt something was off. It could be coincidence once, but could it really be that every time I call? My dad is always busy. Just as I was hesitating whether to call him directly, my phone screen suddenly lit up. Phoebe, hearing that familiar voice, my anxious heart finally settled. The sound of light rain came through from the other end of the phone. Dad, is it raining back home too? No, I'm watching TV. They are reporting on the widespread rainfall in the affected areas. Oh, I responded, completely relieved. Phoebe, didn't you buy 3 cases of instant hot pot last week? I've got nothing to eat here. Could you share a case with me? It was Lincoln, that scoundrel. I casually tapped to hang up, but Lincoln quickly sent another message to confront me. Phoebe, everyone is lacking food and drink now. How can you be so selfish? Not even willing to share a box of instant hot pot. Selfish. Lincoln's words made me laugh in anger. Give a bone to a dog and it wags its tail in gratitude. But what about him? No matter how good he is, he can't stop cheating with other women. I blocked him immediately, but I hadn't anticipated that he'd stoop so low as to spread rumors in the residence group that I had supplies. Phoebe, do you even have a conscience? With floods everywhere, it's the hardest time for everyone. Why not share your supplies to help everyone get through this tough time? We are all neighbors who see each other daily. How can you bear to watch everyone starve? Seeing these messages, a few residents who didn't usually stock up began to get ideas. Some even directly mentioned Lincoln. You just said that the girl named Phoebe in our building has a lot of supplies. That's right. Lincoln quickly replied, eager to have someone engage with him. Before the storm, I saw her bring home 3 cases of instant hot pot. The person who asked went silent. 3 cases of instant hot pot, at most 18 boxes. Half a month has passed. How many could she have left? Seeing no one responding, Lincoln continued to rant in the group. Phoebe likes to buy cheap discount goods. Maybe she's hoarded a lot of food but just isn't willing to share it with everyone. Believe me, I'm her boyfriend. I know her best. Someone who couldn't stand Lincoln using the group for his personal vendetta retorted, boyfriend, looks more like an ex-boyfriend to me. Otherwise, why would you be causing trouble for the girl? Are you hoping that people from building B go and bother her? I shuddered as I read through the group messages. The rain had only been ongoing for a dozen days, and everyone still had some supplies, so reason was still prevailing. But as time passed, supplies would inevitably dwindle. I couldn't imagine the trouble it would bring me if Lincoln spread these messages a few days later. I took a deep breath and uploaded the evidence I had collected before breaking up. A video of Lincoln cheating with multiple women, clear and uncensored. Almost the moment the video was uploaded, the group exploded. Damn, that's explosive. No wonder she broke up. Who could stand such a scumbag? Wow, what a unique hobby. Filming it all. Ha ha ha. Satisfying. That's how you deal with a scumbag. Trying to frame the girl and got solidly debunked. Damn, the admin's quick. I didn't even finish watching before the video was gone. Hey, bro upstairs. I saved it quickly. PM me if you want it. I knew that once the video was out, Lincoln's reputation was ruined, but what did that have to do with me? He was unkind first, even if he tried to stir up residents' emotions later. They would have to question his credibility, while I was pleased with myself for trapping Lincoln. I suddenly received a notification from the group admin for spreading pornographic video. You are muted for 3 hours. All right, Phoebe, you are ruthless. You just wait. After dropping those harsh words, Lincoln stopped messaging. Yet, I couldn't help but feel that he was brewing an even bigger scheme, although I can't just ask him directly, hey, I've crossed you once. What's your plan for revenge? Unless he's a fool. He certainly wouldn't reveal his plans outright. I put down my phone and paced around the living room. I live in Building B, and Lincoln lives in Building A. With the deep water flooding the ground floor, it's unlikely we'll run into each other for now, but desperation can drive people to extreme actions. Lincoln is a man who cares deeply about his reputation. He wouldn't shamelessly seek help from an ex-girlfriend like me unless he had no other choice. After a long contemplation, my gaze settled on the front door. Both the balcony and bedroom windows were secured with burglar bars. If Lincoln wanted to get in, he would have to go through the front door. I checked the door lock again. Then, I pushed the washing machine, refrigerator, and a sofa against the door for extra security. Both the bedroom and the storage room were secured with code locks, impenetrable without the passwords. I thought to myself, if the front door is the first line of defense, then surely the bedroom is the second, before going to bed. I removed a wooden panel from the wardrobe and positioned it strategically. The panel was set to brace against the bedroom door on one end and against the bed on the other, with the bed against the wall. This setup meant that even if someone managed to enter the living room, they couldn't open the bedroom door unless they dismantled it. It was a bit of a hassle to set up every night, but it seemed a small inconvenience compared to my safety. Day 12 of the torrential rains. The night passed without incident. Hearing cheers outside the window, I quickly ran to the bedside to look. Unfortunately, it wasn't a rescue team. Instead, it was just a smattering of supplies floating on the water. There was a large supermarket nearby. Probably a window had been left open, and as the rain intensified, items from the shelves were swept into the floodwaters. From a distance, I couldn't tell exactly what was floating on the water, but the colorful packaging suggested it was food. Some people, ignoring the risks of the flood, dived into the water to grab bag after bag of food. I also saw Lincoln looking out of his window. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't reach the water. Even though the supplies floated near Building A, he could only look on helplessly. Day 15 of the torrential rains. A new message was posted in the residents' group chat. Due to the severe torrential rains, several cities around the world are submerged. In our country, the dam at W County in Blue City has burst, causing massive floods into a county. Many areas are now underwater up to 15 meters deep. It is anticipated that the surrounding regions of a county will continue to be affected. Residents are urged to ensure their safety. Currently, multiple national rescue teams have headed to a county for rescue operations. Reading this notice, my hand trembled involuntarily, and I frantically called my best friend Quinn. Hello. The user you dialed has turned off their phone. Please try again later. Hello. The user you dialed has turned off their phone. I couldn't get through it all. Holding back my tears, I looked at the last few messages Quinn had sent me yesterday. Phoebe, the rescue team has arrived. So many people have come. It didn't make sense. The rescue teams had arrived. So why was there still a dam burst? Unable to contact Quinn, I could only search for snippets of information online. During the day, I couldn't eat thinking about Quinn. By night, I was too hungry to sleep. With a heavy sigh, I resignedly got up from the bed. Thankfully, I had a stash of instant food, which made it easy to fill my stomach. I lit the alcohol stove and placed a small milk pot on it. After the water boiled, I added a tea egg, then 2 fish balls, and finally some instant noodles. Once the noodles softened, I turned off the heat. I still had plenty of supplies, but with the floodwaters showing no signs of receding, I dared not waste anything. I was halfway through my noodles when suddenly, I heard the sound of the door lock turning. Was someone trying to pick the lock? A jolt of fear shot through me, and I instinctively wanted to run to the bedroom. But then I thought, if someone had made it into the living room, how far could they be from the bedroom? Besides, with the washing machine, refrigerator, and sofa piled up against the door, it would take considerable effort for anyone to get in. With this thought, I mustered up the courage to stop. Whoever you are outside, I want you to leave now, I shouted, or I'll call for help. There was silence for a moment before the voice responded. Phoebe, don't be afraid. It's me. It was Lincoln's voice. I quickly stepped back in shock. Lincoln, that scoundrel, was even more frightening, right, Phoebe? I mean no harm, I just want to borrow some supplies, he said. Me, a typical scoundrel, never giving up his thieving ways. Lincoln, I advise you to leave now, or I really will call for help in the group, I warned. Phoebe, I'm really desperate. For old time's sake, let me in to get some food, he pleaded. I didn't respond, but I knew Lincoln wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. So I urgently sought help in the residents' group chat. Everyone, can someone help? This scoundrel is here to steal supplies and is now picking my lock. It was the middle of the night, and I wasn't sure how many would see this message, so I kept copying and pasting the message, hoping the notification sound would wake some people up. I held a kitchen knife tightly, my gaze fixed on the door. By sending that video, Lincoln and I had completely fallen out. I didn't believe he would just take some supplies and leave. Nor did I believe he would just let me be. Lincoln soon noticed my messages flooding the group chat. You ungrateful bitch, you really don't know when to appreciate what you're given, he cursed. Just you wait, once I get this door open, you'll see what I mean. The door was being violently shaken. Clearly, he was trying to break it down. I held the knife in one hand and kept my eyes glued to the screen, hoping someone would see my plea for help. Gradually, I despaired. Despite the noise, none of my neighbors came out to help. Maybe they just wanted to keep to themselves, or perhaps they too wanted a share of whatever could be taken. As for the thoughts of others, I had no way of knowing. All I could do was grip the knife tightly. If Lincoln dared to rob me, what's stopping him from killing me? After all, without a witness who could challenge him later, the shaking of the door grew more intense. Just when I thought a confrontation was inevitable, suddenly a new message appeared in the resident group chat. Girl, don't be afraid. I'm almost at your floor, outside. I soon heard fighting noises. As I hesitated whether to open the door and help the Good Samaritan, a new private message popped up. Don't open the door. There have been 2 men at your apartment door acting out a scene to trick you. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly withdrew my hand that was about to open the fridge. I suddenly remembered something I had overlooked. Lincoln couldn't possibly have swum to my apartment building on his own. Soon, the sounds of fighting in the corridor stopped. A strange male voice said, "Girl, I've got him under control. Quickly find some rope to tie him up." Hearing this, I peeked through the peephole, but both men stood in the shadows, barely visible. My heart tightened, and I began to doubt the man outside. If 2 men were attacking at the same time, my door wouldn't hold for long. At this point, all I could do was desperately try to buy time. Pretending to be scared, I said, "Sir, I don't have any rope. What do I do?" The man, barely containing his impatience, said, "Then find some strong strips of cloth. Would curtains or sheets work? Which material is stronger? Whatever you choose." Woo-woo. But what if the cloth isn't strong and he escapes? The man seemed to have reached his limit of patience. Then what do you suggest? Could you be a complete hero and take him to the community committee? The man's forehead bulged with veins as he blurted out, "No." What if he escapes on the way? Seeing the man completely lose patience, fearing that further delays might provoke him, I reluctantly agreed to his demand. "Please wait a moment, I'll go cut the curtain." Then, pretending to walk away, I messaged the administrator of the resident group privately. Yes, the same one who banned me for 3 hours for spreading an inappropriate video. "How much longer till you can get here?" "I can't hold on much longer." The reply came with an emoticon. "We've got people ready, arriving in 2 minutes." I breathed a sigh of relief. All I needed to do was hold on for 2 more minutes. Half a minute later, the man outside urged, "Haven't you found the cloth yet?" "I've found it. I'm cutting it now." After another minute, "Isn't it cut yet?" "It's cut. I'm picking the strongest one." Another half minute passed. "Isn't it ready yet?" All right, I said in a deliberately pinched voice. "Big brother, just wait a bit longer. I'm moving the sofa and the fridge that are piled behind the door right now." 2 minutes later, someone outside the door uttered words that sounded exactly like Lincoln. "You bitch, you dared to deceive us." After a few knocks, I opened the door. What I saw were 2 men, tightly bound. I finally breathed a sigh of relief and turned towards the direction of the caretaker. "Thank you for your help, old man." The man's expression froze for a second. Then he slowly uttered, "Old man." I looked up sharply, only to see a group of people in their 20s. "Isn't the person I was dealing with called Uncle Nolan?" Nolan's expression softened. "This account originally belonged to my father. After he retired, he handed it over to me to manage." I nodded. "As a reward for my help, I promised to give you 100 liters of pre-stored tap water. Did you bring any containers? We came in too much of a hurry." "Didn't bring any." Nolan glanced at the young men beside him. "What are you waiting for? Go get them." The young men scurried off quickly. It was just me and Nolan left at the scene. Nolan coughed lightly and looked up. "What do you plan to do with these 2? "Anything goes, as long as you don't kill anyone." I nodded, stepped forward, and was about to swing my hand when Nolan spoke again. "Force is mutual. If you hit him, your hand will hurt too. I suggest using a tool, like a book or something. A dictionary would also work." My eyes lit up. Feeling that was a good idea, I turned around and rolled up a magazine. Smack, smack, smack. I actually wanted to use a dictionary to hit them, but dictionaries are too heavy and cumbersome. By the time the young men returned, Lincoln and the other strangers' faces had already turned into steamed buns. As promised, I gave them the 100 liters of pre-stored tap water. I had already mentioned when this tap water was collected. As for whether it has gone bad or is drinkable, that has nothing to do with me anymore. Although the neighbor across from me never came out from beginning to end, it was ultimately kind of him to remind me. I went back to the kitchen, grabbed 2 bags of instant noodles and a bottle of mineral water. I knocked on the neighbor's door, didn't say a word, just left the items on the ground and went back. I blocked the door again using the fridge and washing machine and other heavy items. Nolan also gave me a door stopper, claiming it worked better than using fridges and washing machines. I had just sat down on the sofa when an important alert popped up on my phone. Soon after, it was being forwarded everywhere, in the company group, resident group, and even in social circles. "Dear citizens, the Meteorological Bureau has issued the latest typhoon warning. The super typhoon Kayla will make landfall tomorrow evening from the southeast coast, passing through cities such as Blue City, Talon City, and M City. Please take precautions and ensure your personal safety." Seeing this message, there was a quick outpour of complaints online. Can we even live anymore? The super heavy rain hasn't ended, and now a typhoon. My family has been out of food for 3 days. And there's no sign of the rescue team. I heard the rescue teams are prioritizing those areas with severe disasters. Our area is also badly hit by floods. Why isn't anyone rescuing us? Are you trying to compete with B County? Why don't you switch our places? Floods again through B County. What did we do to deserve this? First, we were inexplicably turned into a flood discharge area, then a super typhoon. Has anyone considered the feelings of us residents of B County, exactly? You can't just keep shearing the same sheep. The residents in the group also complained endlessly, even though our neighborhood wasn't directly in the path of the typhoon. Being near a county that was affected meant we wouldn't escape its impacts. The group soon started another round of resource swapping. Does anyone have extra tape? I'm willing to exchange food for it. Desperately need mineral water. We'll trade a bag of noodles for a bottle. Does anyone have medicine for diarrhea? I ate something that floated in the water yesterday and now my stomach is killing me. I watched these messages, feeling even more anxious. I had only ever seen natural disasters like typhoons on TV. Now it was happening right outside my door. As evening approached, I tried to call home to ease the tension, but after dialing I realized I couldn't get through. A closer look showed that the signal on my phone had completely disappeared. I had never felt such intense fear before. It took a lot of effort to fall asleep under the covers, and soon, I was startled awake again by the sound of urgent rain. For the past half-month, the area had been under a red heavy rainfall warning. This time, the rain seemed to be unusually heavy, as if the sky had split open, pouring down relentlessly. The windows rattled violently, as though they were on the brink of shattering at any moment. Drip, drip. Soon, rainwater began to seep in through the window cracks. I dared not wipe it away as I had before, fearing the glass might explode and thrust me into the relentless downpour. Gradually, I began to feel overwhelmed. Unbeknownst to me, the bed had started to vibrate. I hurriedly got up and looked out the window. It was dimly light outside, yet I could hardly see anything. A few minutes later, there was a sudden rapid knocking at the door. The familiar sound brought a sense of security. Nolan appeared, drenched, without knowing what had happened. As soon as I opened the door, he rushed to say, "I just got a message. A tornado was spotted in the southern part of the city, and it's likely headed our way soon." I was startled. A tornado? That's even more terrifying than a typhoon, a natural disaster with immense destructive power. The tornado moves very fast. With this weather, it's too late to run. We have to find a way to save ourselves, Nolan said, quickly glancing around my apartment. Remember, stay away from the windows. If it gets really bad, hide in the bathroom. After nodding, I watched Nolan hurry off to warn the next house. Time waits for no one. I first opened Quinn's bedroom, moving all the valuable items and the medical kit out. If we survive this storm, and Quinn comes back, I will personally hand these things over to her. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I divided all the supplies into 3 parts. One hid in the bedroom closet, another in the storeroom, and the last in the bathroom. After securing everything, I took a bucket of drinking water and a backpack of supplies, and sat tightly against the bathroom wall on a thick mat, draped in a large down jacket that enveloped me completely. I took a deep breath, my gaze fixed on the narrow window that had been boarded up. I had done all I could. Now, it was in the hands of fate. The rain fiercely pelted the windows, as I awaited the tornado. Each second seemed to stretch endlessly. I always felt I hadn't done enough. Always worried it wasn't sufficient, so I put on another down jacket. Wearing 2 jackets together made me look almost penguin-like, but it suited me just fine. Apart from being uncomfortably hot, these jackets provided maximum protection in case I lost my footing. Time slipped by. Suddenly, after what felt like an eternity, a scream pierced the air from outside. The tornado is here. I couldn't see outside, but the slight shaking of the building was unmistakable. The booming sounds, along with the noise of buildings cracking along its path, constantly assaulted my ears. My legs went weak, my heart pounded furiously. It was over. Was our building going to be blown away too? I had seen the devastation of tornadoes on TV, tornadoes mixed with rain, dragging vehicles, trees, even broken buildings in their path, carrying a destructive force. How long had it been? A few minutes, or just several seconds? Next door, a crack sound followed by the shattering of glass. Then the house trembled. Something, maybe a wardrobe or a bed, was thrown against the wall with a loud bang. My heart skipped a beat, and I clung tighter to myself. Next door was my bedroom. If I hadn't listened to Nolan and had stayed there, I might have. I shuddered at the thought. The howling outside grew closer. I clenched my teeth, sweating profusely, but no matter how hot and stuffy it was, I dared not take off the down jackets. The shaking of the building intensified. Suddenly, the earth shook violently. It felt like something massive had struck the building. With a thud, I was thrown against the opposite wall due to inertia. Thankfully, the double layers of down jackets absorbed much of the impact. The cries from outside continued. I wasn't sure if someone had been swept into the water. Clutching the nearby water pipe, I tried to suppress the fear rising within me. After what seemed like forever, the trembling of the building finally ceased. I listened carefully to the sounds outside. The tornado has passed, and the corridors are filled with intermittent cries of sadness, repression, helplessness, fear, and anger, all of which are now being fully released. My legs had long since gone numb from squatting. And I carefully stood up, supporting myself on a water pipe. The living room was a mess. The large bed in the bedroom had fortuitously lodged itself against the window. The wardrobe had collapsed entirely, scattering its contents across the floor. But luckily, not everything had been swept away by the wind. After checking the storeroom, I was relieved to find the supplies there were still intact. After putting all the supplies back into the storeroom, I cautiously stepped over the broken glass in the living room and walked to the window. The floodwaters carried all sorts of debris, cars, billboards, uprooted trees, broken buildings, and even bodies that had accidentally been swept into the water. Fine rain pelted my face and a faint stench permeated the air. Due to the tornado, the Cocoa River had changed its course, and the floodwaters originally headed to B County were now redirected here. I gasped at the sight of the floodwaters, now about 20 meters high. Even if the rain stopped now, it would be impossible to leave the residential area anytime soon unless professional rescue teams came to evacuate the affected residents. However, considering the global extent of the catastrophic rain, with over 70% of cities submerged, I doubted rescue teams could manage. The remaining cities too faced their own challenges and were hard to reach. By evening, influenced by typhoon weather, the heavy rain returned with a vengeance. With the windows gone, the living room and bedroom quickly got drenched. Fortunately, the apartment's drainage system worked well. I managed a wry smile, found some wooden planks, and boarded up all the windows. Although not as secure as proper glass, it was better than nothing. By now, the floodwaters had risen to the 9th floor, with about one floor getting submerged every 2 days. I lived on the 22nd floor, and though not immediately at risk of flooding, continued rain would inevitably lead to it. What then? Rubbing my face, I tried to clear my thoughts. Besides the rain and floods, the tornado had also caused significant damage to the neighborhood. Few people in the building probably had any food reserves left. Hunger would soon become commonplace. On the 25th day of the rain, the floodwaters had reached the 15th floor. More and more residents began to crowd the corridors, dealing with their daily needs right there. This apocalypse, led by the relentless rain, was gradually pushing human endurance to its limits. I cracked open the wooden plank covering the window a little to get a clearer view downstairs. The number of bodies floating in the water seemed to have increased. In the distance, several apartment buildings showed no signs of survivors for days. If it were just starvation, how could entire buildings of people disappear so quickly unless someone was preying on those residents? With this chilling thought, I could no longer sit still. Although this speculation was inhumane, we were, after all, in an apocalypse where human nature was the most unpredictable. In the evening, I was modifying a baseball bat, hammering shiny nails into it. I had taken a wooden stick from the sofa and shaped it into a makeshift bat after an afternoon's work, then spent another 2 hours nailing thick, long nails into one end of the bat. Creating a primitive mace, I swung it, satisfied with the threatening sound it made in the air. As darkness fell, I moved the alcohol stove into the storeroom before daring to light it, knowing that any light could expose my supplies. The rain continued, and still, no rescue teams appeared. I had to adjust the use of my supplies, reducing meals from 3 to 2 a day and strictly rationing water. Suddenly, a commotion erupted downstairs. I instinctively turned off the stove. Unfortunately, the disturbance was too far from my floor to discern what was happening. In the middle of the night, a frantic knocking erupted on the doors outside my apartment, not just mine but also my neighbors. My heart skipped a beat as I gripped the mace beside me, and soon after, desperate cries for help filled the air. Is anyone there? Does anyone have any medicine, anything for stopping bleeding, reducing inflammation, pain relief, or disinfection will do? I have a good memory. And I quickly recognized the identity of the person calling for help. Peter. He was the young man who had always been following Nolan, running errands back and forth. Since the communication networks went down, most of the messages were delivered door to door by Nolan and his men, probably because they trusted Nolan. The neighbors quickly opened their doors. From their brief exchanges, I quickly understood the situation. Nolan was injured. Some outsiders came looking for trouble, and although Nolan took his men to handle it, he was ambushed and severely injured. However, the neighbors only had a bottle of disinfectant alcohol. Peter grabbed the disinfectant and ran, but after running a few meters, he came back and knocked on my door. Miss Phoebe, our boss said to remind you to be careful these days. There was someone in the group causing trouble today who has bothered you before. Someone who had bothered me before? I paused. Could it be Lincoln, after all? He was the only one who had troubled me. I remember clearly, given Lincoln's hatred for me, once he had the capability to retaliate, he would undoubtedly act without reservation, and with so many helpers. Thinking of this, I shuddered. Lincoln knew where I lived. This time, he and his accomplices were stopped by Nolan and his men. But what about next time? I clenched the mace in my hand and made a quick decision. Since I could no longer rely on myself alone to escape this predicament, Nolan was undoubtedly a good ally to consider. Wait a moment, I have a first aid kit here. Nolan and his group lived on the top floor. As soon as I entered, I was momentarily dazzled by the greenery, lettuce, bok choy, spinach. The large balcony was covered in vines and plants. Nolan was reclining on the couch, shirtless, his lips devoid of any color, seeing the wound that snaked from his shoulder down into his lower back. My heart shook violently. It wasn't out of sympathy. The wound was just too frightening. The skin around the cut was inflamed, the flesh on either side turned outward, and the bone was faintly visible. My hands trembled, and I thrust the medical kit into Peter's arms. Quick, go treat his wound. Nolan barely lifted his eyelids in response, but as soon as Peter touched his back, Nolan sucked in a breath of air as if in pain. Oscar, unable to stand by, pushed Peter aside. Look at your clumsy hands. Let me do it. However, after he took over, the expression on Nolan's face grew even more pained. After several people tried and seemed to realize something else was needed, the medical kit quickly returned to my hands. Oscar smiled apologetically. Miss Phoebe, we are all men here, clumsy at administering medicine. Could you please help our boss with his wounds? Me? I was about to say I had no experience when I was already being pushed to sit behind Nolan on the couch. With no way out, I followed the instructions and redressed the wound. Fortunately, this time Nolan was more cooperative and didn't show any painful expressions. As dawn broke, I was about to discuss potential collaboration with Nolan when suddenly I heard the walkie-talkie on the coffee table crackle a few times. Then, an excited voice came through. Boss, rescue has arrived. The rescue team has entered the complex. I was overjoyed and quickly ran to the window, only to see that the window on the 16th floor was already crowded with survivors. Everyone was desperate to escape. Before the rescue boat even approached, people from the 16th floor were jumping into it like dumplings. The boat's going to capsize, a faint voice said, and I turned around to see Nolan had already put on a shirt. Sure enough, just seconds after Nolan spoke, the rescue boat capsized, throwing the rescuers and survivors into the water. A few minutes later, the walkie-talkie crackled again. Boss, it seems the rescue team is specifically asking about Miss Phoebe. He says Miss Phoebe is his daughter. Should we tell him the truth? In an instant, I thought through many possibilities, but I never imagined that my father would join a rescue team from thousands of miles away because he was worried about my safety. All to find me sooner, Dad. I looked at the man with the disheveled beard in front of me, my eyes welling up. No wonder every time I called, there was always the sound of drizzling rain on the other end. Turns out, he had left home long ago to join the rescue team alone. My father rubbed my head and pulled out a familiar pendant from his pocket. This belongs to Quinn, I said, eyes wide in disbelief as I took the pendant. Quinn is fine now. She has moved to a safe place along with other disaster-stricken residents. She specifically asked me to tell you this because she was worried about you, having family by my side. My previously frantic heart settled down in an instant. My dad also brought news from outside. According to the Meteorological Bureau, the rate of the water level rise has started to slow down. However, 90% of the world's land area has been submerged under dozens of meters of floodwater, and it will take some time for the waters to recede. In this global flood, only the high mountains located in the northwest part of the country remained unaffected. The government has established a temporary base there and has dispatched countless fishing boats to rescue and bring survivors to the base. Dad, did you just say that a fishing boat will come to take us to the base early tomorrow morning? Yes, my dad nodded, his voice betraying his relief. When we get home, let your mom cook you something delicious. Looking at the floodwater that had reached the 16th floor, my eyes gleamed with joy. Since the day of the catastrophic rain, a force called hope had finally begun to grow in my heart. 34. That evening, seeing the storeroom filled with supplies, my dad couldn't help but give me a thumbs up. Impressive, worthy of being my daughter. I smiled and generously asked, Dad, what would you like to eat? Hot pot. Okay, definitely, hot pot base. Preserved meat, canned luncheon meat, canned ham, vermicelli, instant noodles, and the lettuce and water spinach I took from Nolan's house. The spicy aroma quickly filled the living room. So far, the rain had continued for 26 days. My dad had participated in the rescue efforts for 20 days, every day, living on the boat. Even a warm meal was a luxury. But the thought of his daughter being among the countless affected people kept him from resting. Fortunately, everything had a good ending that night. Nolan gathered all the residents of the building from the 20th to the 23rd floor. In his words, Lincoln and his group had killed many residents of the community, and even if they were taken back to the base, their fate would not be good. The fishing boat will arrive early tomorrow. Tonight was their last chance to erase all evidence. If all the residents of our building disappeared, no one would know of their misdeeds. Thinking of the possible battle tonight, I made a makeshift mace and each of us carried one. Seeing our equipment, other residents quickly followed suit. Baseball bats, golf clubs, machetes, hoes, sickles, wooden pickaxes. Every person was armed with a weapon. Lincoln and his group might have slaughtered several buildings of people, but now that others knew to band together and resist, how much chance did they stand? As time ticked by, someone couldn't help but yawn. I glanced at my phone. It was past 1 in the morning. It was the time when the human body is most tired. If Lincoln and his group appeared now, catching us off guard would be dangerous. I took out 2 boxes of instant noodles. Nolan had someone cook them on the spot. Dozens of noodle cakes were boiled, and soon the hallway was filled with their aroma. Everyone had been hungry for several days, and with such a stimulus, who could still sleep after eating and drinking? Everyone's spirits were much lifted. Nolan personally led people to guard the stairwell. Several buckets of a secret weapon were placed at his feet. Next to them, several large pots were bubbling with steam. 36, around 2 in the morning. Finally, there was some noise from downstairs. Nolan waved his hand, and the residents in charge of boiling water quickly extinguished the fire. A dozen people lined up, each holding a pot of just boiled water. In the darkness, Nolan's eyes intently watched the lower floors. Seconds turned into minutes, and the footsteps grew closer. Just as the attackers were about to reach the 20th floor, Nolan shouted, "Now!" At his command, everyone immediately threw their buckets downward. Bang, bang, bang. Piercing screams soon came from below. The scalding hot water, at nearly 90 degrees Celsius, was unbearable for humans. The painful cries from below lasted for several minutes, but would the attackers give up so easily? Apparently not. Half an hour later, those people appeared again at the stairway corner. This time, however, they had wooden boards with them. Using the boards as shields, they steadily advanced forward. Nolan had anticipated this and waved his hand, prompting several young people to throw down a refrigerator straight down the stairs. Flower pots, ovens, water heaters, washing machines, microwaves, anything throwable was used without hesitation. A mere wooden board might stop hot water, but when faced with heavy objects like fridges and washing machines, it instead became an obstacle to their escape. The screams from below grew even more harrowing. Nolan spoke calmly, "Prepare for the final strike." At his command, everyone hastily kicked the buckets at their feet. Before the invaders could even run, they were doused head to toe with a yellow liquid. I instinctively covered my nose. The buckets contained none other than the collected urine and feces of the building's residents. Thinking of Lincoln and his group covered in filth brought me immense relief. This time, until dawn broke, the invaders did not reappear. As the faint morning light emerged, someone shouted, "The boat! The nation has sent a boat to pick us up." At the horizon where water met sky, a boat slowly approached. Some had tears in their eyes, others embraced and wept. This fishing boat was large enough to accommodate the entire community. But in the end, only the residents of our building boarded the boat. The other apartment buildings had been ravaged by Lincoln and his group. They didn't leave a single survivor. As for Lincoln, the moment the ferry started, I vaguely spotted their group's figures at the apartment building ahead. They were well aware of their crimes. Even if they had gone to the temporary base, their lives wouldn't be spared. So they simply chose to stay behind and continue to face this endless flood. I turned around, leaving the entire neighborhood behind me. Nolan waved at me and handed me a small box. "Here, for the medicine." It turned out to be a box full of gold bars. Oscar teased cheekily beside me, "Miss Phoebe, our boss has really given you all his fortunes." Holding the box of gold bars, I had only one thought: a box full of gold really is quite heavy.